What's happening, everybody? Appreciate you guys checking in. We in here. In the Raider War Room. You got me for just a quick minute. Severe's going to be popping in here in just a second. Chris has something else going on, man. Shout out to him. But if you guys are new to the channel, appreciate y'all popping in here. But we hit you guys on Sundays as well as Wednesdays in the Raider War Room. I'm 805 Raider, channel's Real Talk Raider Nation. You got the Severe Raiders going to pop in just a quick minute. But the other 1/3 of the Raider War Room is Chris from Protect the Show podcast. Shout out to my guys, man. Again, Severe's going to be with me in just a minute. But shout out to Chris after this. Definitely go over, hit him up, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button to Chris's channel. But do me a favor. If you pop it up in here, if you know what we do, double tap that screen, hit that like button. I definitely appreciate it. We got quite a bit to talk about. Last Wednesday, we definitely did a deep dive into the draft picks because that was our first live since the draft. Shout out to everybody that went to Pittsburgh. Myself, Chris, Severe, we were there. Shout out to Jeff. I see you in the chat, man. Jeff, man, the super fans. You got Predator that we linked up with. Shout out to him. Also, Gridiron Apex, Dante, man. If you guys don't know, definitely go over to Dante's channel, man. He covers just everything football as it relates to college, right? He definitely does a deep dive into the NFL teams as well. But his kind of bread and butter is that college ranks. And so if you guys want to know more about the college teams, as well as the prospects, even leading up to next year's draft. I know it's a year from now, but leading up to next year's draft, definitely go check out Dante. But shout out to him and his guys over there. Linked up with them and had a damn good time at the draft. But we did a deep dive on the draft picks. But today we're going to talk about a couple things. One, the UDFAs. We're going to talk about the UDFAs, maybe some guys that have a really good chance at possibly making the team. But then we're also going to talk about, man, Charles Snowden. Charles Snowden, he ends up getting waived / kind of released. I want to say it actually went down yesterday or maybe the day before. And so definitely want to get your guys' take on that. We'll give you ours. But also, I know that the news was kind of swirling around. We talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, but we finally got some footage of Laki Tasi officially moving over to the defensive line side, man. And I'm telling you, I'm excited. We're definitely going to talk about that before we kind of get to that topic. Again, we'll probably talk about that last. You know, one of the comments that I got, I posted a video a few weeks ago. I want to say it was a couple of weeks before the draft. Posted a video. Shout out to our guy, Jack Kenna, man. He kind of said the question in one of my lives and said that he wanted to see kind of Laki Tasi on the defensive side. Man, it'd be crazy to see him. And I kind of posted a video on it. And when Laki Tasi originally moved to the offensive side last season, man, I was pissed. I was pissed off. I know I shared it on our lives. Chris and Severe felt the same way because I felt like this kid could do some damage as a situational interior defensive lineman. And now that he's back over the defensive side, man, I'm excited. And again, because there's some footage out there now of us being able to kind of see what he looks like on that defensive side, kind of going through some of those defensive drills. It could be nasty. And again, you just need him for situational purposes. That's all you need him for. It's just situational. 6'7", 370-something pounds. Could be a damn beast. And so shout out to everybody in here. Appreciate y'all. We're going to go through the UDFAs. We're going to talk about Charles Snowden. We're also going to talk about Laki Tasi just a little more in depth as well with you guys as well as my guy Severe when he pops up in here. So I'm going to say what's up to chat, man. I appreciate everybody rocking up in here. Got to say what's going on to Moon over Miami, first from the building. Appreciate you rocking. What up, Troy Gill? What's happening? What up, Jeff? What's going on, man? Appreciate you. We're all kind of late, man. I had these last 2 days, I had windows installed in my house, and it took a little bit longer than expected. And so I literally had to move all my work stuff and work/podcast setup, I guess. And I was literally scrambling to get everything back in place. So all of us were a little bit late, but shout out to you, man, for pulling up. What up, Kenneth? What's going on, brother? Appreciate you rocking with here. Let's see. Anthony, what's happening? Herman, what's going on, brother? We got Alex in here as well. Alex Torres, what's going on, man? You're saying hi, coach. You're saying hi, coach. But I think I coached an Alex Torres back in the day. Is this the Alex Torres I used to coach? I'm just asking because I know I coached Alex Torres way back in the day. Let me know, man. But either way, appreciate you. But let me know in the chat. That'd be crazy because, man, haven't seen a lot of kids that I coached with back in the day. Again, I coached in California as well as Texas, but I'm out here in Nevada. Have not coached out here in Nevada. but I did coach a Torres before. Shout out to you, big dog. Let's see. Yeah, Kenneth, I think I hear you check in with in Jeff's channel, and you the Texans fan, man. Shout out to you. Appreciate you rocking over here. Let's see. What up, Larry? What's going on, man? You're saying that's definitely good at 5. It's about time. Rugby doesn't translate at all to the offensive line position. It doesn't, but one thing I did say is what would be really good is at least, now, man, if you had 2 years, man, repping the D line, I think that he could be so much farther along with just his athleticism and the way rugby kind of translates to the defensive side of the game. I think he'd be so much farther along. But I guess one upside that you can say, and again, I mentioned this a few weeks ago when I brought the topic, was maybe him repping the offensive line, he got a little bit more understanding as to just kind of what offensive linemen want to do as it relates to scheme and technique, right? When they hit him with the zone scheme versus power run scheme, maybe he can kind of get a better idea of tendencies, right? And so maybe he can kind of translate that and bring that over, and maybe that'll help him with his path moving forward as a defensive lineman. But yeah, I'm with you. Rugby doesn't necessarily translate to the offensive line. But one comment that I got, sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. One comment that I got from that video that I posted was basically to kind of paraphrase it, was he was saying that not sure why everybody's making a big deal about him playing offensive line. It's not that difficult to learn. And I'll tell you right now, offensive line is probably one of the most difficult things in sports to learn in general. I mean, it's not about just learning the game. It's also about understanding what to do at the snap, because the defensive lineman isn't always going to shoot to the right or the left or hit you head up. They're going to be able to stunt. They're going to slant. You know what I'm saying? And so not only do you have to know what the D lineman in front of you is doing, but you also got to understand where the backer's coming from. Where's the safety going to come from? Right? How are they setting them up? And so it's not about just learning the game and the X's and O's and in the classroom. It's about understanding how to react at the snap. And that is where years and years and years of experience comes into play. And so to just think that you can automatically come in and play offensive line as a player that's never played this position before, for someone to make that comment just either tells me you're just very ignorant to the position, or honestly, you just have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. So you can go back. It was on that it was on the video that I posted of Laki Tasi. So, but Cool Cat, what's going on, brother? I see you up in here. Linda, what's happening? Appreciate you rocking with me. Brentley in the building as well. What's going on? Little Spider, hell of a name. Appreciate you rocking up here. Appreciate you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see. Raider Pete in the building. Also, I'm gonna say what's up to a little bit more. But if any of you are in Bakersfield, Southern California, next week, Raider Nation summer kickoff in Bakersfield. I went last year for the first time, man. It was a hell of a way to kind of kick off the summer of this offseason. The draft is done, free agency is done, and now everybody's just going to be talking nothing but Raider football going into the 2026 season. So if you guys are in the Southern California area, go to Raiders Crusaders on IG. He basically holds this event. I believe this is his 12th year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody that knows, I think it's his 12th annual time doing it in Bakersfield, but May 16th. So not this coming weekend, but next weekend, we're going to be out there. Myself, Severe's going to try to make it. Shout out to Cheeto Linus, Christopher Raiders, Raider Nation Jason, Jack Kenna, Sacktown Mike, man. Everybody's going to be out there. It's going to be a hell of a time. It's going to be fun, man. You want to see a big Raider Nation party? That's it. Linda, you saying, how was the trip to Pittsburgh? It was awesome. It was awesome. You know, I've been to multiple drafts. You know, I went to the one in Dallas when I lived in Texas. I went to the one in Las Vegas that was over here. This one, it was a lot of fun, because this was the first time me doing it and being a content creator, and kind of doing this as a Raider fan. And to be able to meet up with the people like Jeff with Predator, Gridiron Apex, those type of people, and just kind of seeing the Raider fans and seeing people, you know, linking up with Chris and Severe, but seeing people that recognized me at times, it was cool. And so just linking up with a lot of people and just not just seeing the Raider fan base, but seeing just all the fan bases come together, I think it was cool. And I will say, is you guys know, I was not the biggest fan of drafting Fernando Mendoza. But I will say, and we'll talk about this when Severe gets in, because I want him to kind of give his take on the draft picks as well, is the one real big positive of drafting Fernando Mendoza is I do think it's really brought the fan base together. We have been in a crazy slump for who knows how long, right? Dating back to our Super Bowl day where we got our ass handed to us. Ever since then, we've almost been divided. It's been a lot of complaining, and rightfully so. But I will say what was really good to see, and this is what you kind of want as a fan base, is you want the fan base to come together and just collectively kind of just be excited, be happy again. And again, as much as I'm not, I have so many question marks for Fernando Mendoza, and I was on the trade back train, and I hope he answers all the questions that I had. It was good to see just a really excited, motivated fan base. And I'm going to say what's up to the other people, but I'll give you a really quick story. And I shared this with Chris and Severe when it happened. I was out here, and I was at the UPS store, and I was waiting in line. I was next up. And there was a guy in front of me, and there was nobody else, no other lines open, no other spots open where I could kind of do my business at UPS. So I'm waiting in my line. There's a guy in front of me. And another spot opened up, and the guy came up. He said, "Can I help you?" So I walked up, and I looked over, and sure as shit, it was Jack Besh. So I'm standing right next to Jack Besh, right? So I see him. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" I'm telling you, I'm the worst kind of podcaster. I'm the worst fan ever, to be honest, because I don't get really crazy excited when I see Raider players. I really don't. I mean, they're just people, you know what I'm saying? And so I looked over. I was like, "Oh, man, Jack Besh." He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, man, hey, good luck this season. I'm a big Raider fan. I know you're our second round pick, man. Just good luck this season." And this was the afternoon of the 49er inter-squad practice. It was right before the scrimmage or the preseason game. And so they had that inter-squad practice that morning. And coincidentally enough, I was there. And I just leaned over. I was like, "Hey, man, good luck." But hey, I was like, "How was that practice earlier today with the 49ers?" And we chopped it up for like 30 seconds, right? We're at the UPS counter. And right before he was about to walk away, I started doing my business. He was doing his. And as soon as he was about to walk away, he goes, "Man, I just want to say, appreciate you saying what's up, because you're the first Raider fan to recognize me. You're the first Raider fan to actually say what's up." He goes, "I've been living in this area. And mind you, this is 3 weeks. I want to say the 49er game, I think, was our third preseason game, I think. That's 3 weeks into the preseason. You are our second round pick, and no one's recognized you walking through the grocery store, going to get gas or what have you." Now, I understand veterans that maybe come in. Veterans are probably over all that. Veterans, they've been bombarded by fans, and they're probably cool to come to an area where maybe they're not recognized as much, or you live around a bunch of other fan bases, right? Because this is a melting pot of fan bases in the Vegas area. And so he basically came up and he said, "Man, you're the first one to ever recognize me." And for a second round pick, a guy that literally got drafted by a team, you're coming to a city, and I would think you just entered the NFL. As a young kid, you're probably thinking, "Man, I want to be welcomed by the fan base. I want to be able to kind of have the fan base kind of screaming and yelling for me like you see in Pittsburgh, or you see in Baltimore, or you see, in Seattle." But unfortunately, he didn't get it. So I think ultimately, overall, the one positive that I can, without question, state is that I think just seeing the excitement that the fan base brought when Fernando Mendoza came out in Henderson and stuff like that, I will definitely take that as a good thing without question. So, but ultimately, the trip to Pitt, it was awesome. Shout out to everybody that was there, and it was good to see the fan base just kind of come together. Again, even though I was on Team Trade Back. But that was my story. Hopefully you enjoyed it, but I got to bring somebody else into the building, man. Severe. What's going on, man? What's happening?
Salute, man. Salute. How's everybody doing?
We're going to get a couple more in, man. If you guys don't know, definitely hit up The Severe Raider. If you're on my channel or on Chris's channel, definitely go over there. I don't know if Chris didn't set it up. If you're on my channel, definitely afterwards go over, hit up Severe, man. Say what's up to him. Hit that sub button. Then afterwards, go to Protect the Shield podcast. Go hit him up as well. We hit you guys on Sundays and Wednesdays. We break down game film during the season, too, if you don't know. So shout out to everybody rocking. So we'll say what's up to a couple more people, and then we're getting into – we want Severe's take on the draft picks. We definitely broke ours down on Wednesday, but – we'll reiterate one more time, and then we're going to get to the UDFAs. We're talking about Charles Snowden, and then we're going to talk about Laki Tasi, our guy. So
yeah.
We got Fish in the building. Broncos fan. Shout out to you, man. Let's see. Salute. What up, Rebel? Let's see. I think you're saying Rebel. You're saying about Laki Tasi moving to defense. Shout out to you. What up, TK? What's going on, big dog? Money Chuck in the building. What's happening, man? Brim Blood in the building as well. What's going on? Let's see. Edgar in the building. What's happening? I heard Laki Tasi nose guard. Hey, we're going to talk about that at the very end, big dog. I promise. We got my take in the building as well. What's going on? Nano G in the building. What is good? Let's see. Dominic, what's happening, man? I know that is Vegas. It is. It sucks, but shout to him, man. I'm glad at least one person recognized him. What up, Loon? What's going on, big dog? What's happening? Let's see. MG's in the building as well. What's going on? Okay. Appreciate everybody, man. Make sure you guys double tap that screen before we kind of give you our takes, because next thing you know, you might hate us. But like Severe always says, if you hate the take, then just punch us in the face a little bit with that finger and double tap the screen.
Hit us in the face twice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up. This is the easiest way to kind of go over it. We're going to go over the draft picks, man. Let me go ahead and share the screen right quick. We're going to do this. Got to make sure I share it first. So Severe, we're going to get your take on it, man.
Let me pull this up real quick. Yes, Jeff, we did like Don better than you, and I will say, brother, you definitely outkicked your coverage. Outkicked your coverage, bro. Power to you, Jeff. Power to you.
100%, man. Yeah, I mean, Jeff was always a cool guy. Jeff was always cool. Jeff was always our guy, you know what I'm saying? But then when Don comes in the picture, we're like, Jeff, hey, Don, there's 4 seats at the table. We only can pick one. We know who we're picking. We're just saying. Shout to Don, man. She definitely held it down for Jeff and the entire week, and it was a lot of fun, big dog. Okay. All right, man, Severe. So we're going to start from 1. We're going to go all the way down. Mendoza, right? Obviously, initial reaction, what's your thoughts? Obviously, a lot of us were, in the hopes that maybe we trade back, build this roster out a little bit. Obviously, had some question marks, but what's your thoughts, man? Floor's yours.
Yeah, man. Mendoza is that was Thanos. What did Thanos say? I am inevitable. Well, we all knew what was happening. Well, no, before I get into the draft, first of all, I want to say, I put a message out on IG, about my cousin. He was having some health issues, man, and I just got overwhelming response from everybody, man. Just everybody sending in prayers and positive energy, man. So I just want to thank everybody that that hopped on IG to send those messages to me, man. It is much appreciated. But yeah, I mean, getting into the draft, Mendoza, we kind of knew what was happening. This draft, unless we end up getting like a Hall of Fame player or perennial All-Pro player in one of those later picks, this draft basically hinges on whether or not Mendoza turns into a starting caliber, quarterback, and where he's like the starter for our franchise for years. He doesn't have to necessarily be all pro level guy or one of the top 10 in the league. But if he's not a guy that starts consistently for us, like beyond his first contract, then this draft will be looked upon as a failure for the most part, because you wasted so much capital on this guy, especially, with the number 1 overall pick, especially with the quarterback class that is going to be in next year's draft. And then there have been reports, I think Albert Breer, I want to say Tom Pelissero, there were a few guys reporting that, that if had other quarterbacks declared, Mendoza might not have been the number 1 overall pick. So, that is speculation. So, we can't, you got to kind of play the cards that you're dealt. But like this draft, this draft class hinges essentially on whether Mendoza turns into a consistent starter for the Raiders. So, we got to keep our fingers crossed there. Round 2, Stukes. Obviously, that was a major.
Let me talk to it. I want everybody to understand. I understand. Like, we broke down the game from Mendoza, right? We did all that, and I know we were kind of on the trade back talks a lot, real heavy in the war room, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
he's drafted now, and like any player, no matter if we had question marks, we didn't want him, and there's a lot of players that none of us wanted in this draft.
Yeah,
right. And that's not just us. It's other guys. How many people had Crawford on their radar? You know what I'm saying? And so we're going to talk about some guys, and just because Crawford wasn't on your radar doesn't mean you're not going to root for him. And so just because we weren't the biggest Fernando Mendoza fans at number 1 doesn't mean we're not going to root for him. I want to give my kids candy God damn it, for all the right reasons. And the only way that happens if Fernando Mendoza actually does well. And so I'm rooting for him. We're all Raider fans. And from the moment his name was called, we're hoping that he changes this organization around because we want to get back to the winning ways. And again, I was probably the hardest critic overall on him, and I hope he answers all the questions. So
yeah,
I understand people want to go, just because we drafted him, all of a sudden now he's the savior. No, just like Tyree Wilson, just like Jamarcus Russell, just like Cleveland Farrell, just like Damon Arnett, just like every first rounder we have drafted before Fernando Mendoza, they have to prove it. Just because we picked him doesn't mean he's the savior and he's the guy, right? He's got to prove it just like every other draft pick. And I'll preface this, even if we traded back, doesn't make me right, doesn't make the decision right, because ultimately it has to play out. We have to figure out what it's going to ultimately end up being. And so for people want to crown him all of a sudden, because I'm hearing it now more than ever, that he is the savior, and now he is going to be the guy. Everything is a wait and see. So, all right. My bad. Go for it. Round 2, Trayon Stukes.
Yeah. Well, just keep it on Mendoza for a little bit longer. Like you were saying, everybody wants him to be the savior. We haven't had a first-round quarterback succeed for this franchise since Kenny Stabler. Ken Stabler was taken in 1968. My mother was born in 1967. My mom, I'm damn near 40. And my mom was only one the last time we had a successful first-round quarterback. So I know we're all hoping against hope with that situation. Hopefully, we've built the proper infrastructure for him to succeed. Don't know if we did a lot in this draft class to help him. We'll get to that. But hopefully we have the proper infrastructure in place to help him be a successful pro. Round 2, we took Trayon Stukes. I think that was a massive surprise. For me personally, especially there's a lot of guys on the board. Denzel Boston, I know that was a favorite among Raider fans. He was still on the board. Lee Hunter is another favorite among Raider fans. He was still on the board. A guy I liked early on that I didn't think was going to be available. Caden McDonald, he was still available, and we actually traded back and we let him go to Houston, an AFC rival who already has a tremendous defense. And the one thing that we're missing is what he brings. So we let him go to a defensive line that has Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. So, I think that may end up being a miscalculation, because if we're to reach the heights that we want to reach, we're going to have to see that guy eventually. But just looking at Trayon Stukes in a vacuum, we didn't have a free safety on this roster. I think we talked about it ad nauseum. We didn't have a guy that was a true post safety, ball hawking free safety here, and he's a guy that offers that. He's a guy that has played outside corner, he's played in the slot, and he's played free safety, so he offers you some versatility. He's probably a plug and play starter immediately. He's mature, as he should be. He's about to be 25 years old, so he should be extremely mature. He was, I think he was a 2 or 3 year captain with the Wildcats. So, and he's a guy that got a lot of ball production in college. At the time of the pick, I hated the pick just because, first of all, I don't think you take – I don't believe in taking safety super duper early unless they're just like freaks in terms of they help in run support and they're great in coverage. Like Trayon Stukes, he's good in coverage. He gets a lot of ball production. Not really going to come up and get a lot of make a lot of plays in the run game. But the way our defense is structured, hopefully we do a little bit to kind of conceal that. But just in terms of a guy that's going to turn the ball over and get some ball production, I think, he's a guy that did a fantastic job of that. So just looking at it in a vacuum, just him as a player, what he did in college and the roster needs, I'm not mad at the pick. If you get to looking at where he was taken and who else was on the board, then I'm a little more critical. But, SpyTek isn't looking at it that way. He's just looking strictly at, what do we need as a team and what is he as a prospect? Where was he on their board? And he probably felt it was a area where his draft board met positional need and it was close enough where you pull the trigger.
I think what's just difficult is we heard Trayon Stukes, right? And we know that we were looking for a true safety. I just don't know. Can Trayon Stukes play a true safety position? I think he could possibly play it. I think he's probably arguably a better over the top safety where he can just be the last line of defense potentially because he can get sideline to sideline. But man, I went back and I watched a couple games. I watched him against Arizona State where all of a sudden he goes against Jordan Tyson. And Jordan Tyson took him a couple times. I'm talking like beat him deep, bad. Then you go and I watched I believe it was the Cincinnati game and the BYU game. And there's definitely some really good plays, but then there's just some plays where just purely missed the tackle.
Yeah.
So
and that's the thing with them. Like if you're gonna put whether he's free safety or he's slot, when you're a slot corner, you have to be able to help in run support. And he's not a guy that's, he willing tackler. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But like being willing isn't the end all be all. You have to actually execute. And he's not a guy that's great at that. Ironically, and what's funny about the Arizona State game is that everybody points that's the game where he had that crazy interception. I forgot who was the receiver. It wasn't Tyson though. I forgot who the receiver was, but he had that like crazy, or he like jumped over the top of the guy and picked the ball off. And that's the play that's the play a lot of people point to, like, look at this guy. You see this play? But
I mean, also chat, do me a big favor, hit the hashtag Raiders if you have a question for us or a comment to it. Then it just catches my eye because the amount of people that are just in the chats, because we're streaming to multiple spots, it definitely catches my eye. So but look, I think it was a good pick. I think the only thing, and I'll kind of just end my thing on Trayon Stukes is, again, guys like AJ Halsey and the kid from I'm looking at his name. The kid from USC,
Kamari Ramsey.
Kamari Ramsey. Like those two guys, I thought you want a true free safety. I thought maybe you could address that more in the third.
Yes. And
then get somebody in the second, again, like a receiver that would just something else. So again, that would have just been the way I would have gone. But again, I do like Trayon Stukes. I think he fills a need. My biggest question mark is where exactly is he going to fill that need? Because you have now three guys that look very, very similar. Jeremy Chin is a box safety that you can kind of move him around. Isaiah Paul-Mal is the same thing. And so where is the true free safety in this offense? Now, are you going to play more of a too high safety look, which is what a lot of the defenses are now moving to? Like scratch that cover three, get rid of that goddamn cover three. That's a Pete Carroll thing. But are you going to play more too high safety to where now it's a Trayon Stukes and Isaiah Paul-Mal side by side, kind of playing over top, splitting the field, disguising coverages, and then maybe using Jeremy Chin as a true box safety? I could see that happening. And if that's how you want to run it, I could definitely see it working out better that way.
Yeah.
But it just opens up, it just leaves that question mark open.
Yeah. And like, obviously I was a big proponent early on for Kamari Ramsey. He didn't go into like the 4th or the 5th round, right? We didn't even have to do it in the 3rd. We could have waited an additional round or two and still got a guy who, in my opinion, is while he doesn't have the same level of ball production as Trayon Stukes, he's the same level of player. And he's just as versatile. Actually, you can say he's more versatile because not only did he play both safety spots, which Trayon only played like the post safety or the deep safety, but he also played nickel and he played outside corner last year for a coach that coached in the NFL, whose father is a longtime NFL coach in D'Anton Lynn, right? His father is Anthony Lynn. So I think Kamari Ramsey, in terms of value, later on, I think that was a great value, and he's a great ball player, and he's only 21 years old. So you get like a extra 4 years of youth and development. So I think that, we can get into that all day, but Trayon Stukes at the time, I was pissed. Looking at it now, I'm not quite as mad. I understand why they did it. But I just think we left some value on the board by drafting him in the 2nd round.
Cause the Oak think I'm pronouncing it right. It says Stukes. Is Stukes a Spytek or Kubiak pick?
Spytek.
I'm thinking Spytek. That would be my guess.
Yeah. But like he's a win now player. He's a plug and play guy. So it could be in concert with Kubiak where they want to, obviously usually the head coach is in win now mode. GM is usually in, I'm thinking, 3-4 years down the line. And one of the problems I have with Trayon Stukes is obviously first of all, you got to guarantee his contract because second round picks, you can guarantee contracts now. This 4-year deal, at the end of that 4-year deal, he's going to be 29 going on 30. How does that second contract look like? Right? Like, what do you do with that second contract? Because at the end of that second contract, you sign up to another 4 or 5-year deal. He's going to be 33, 34 years old at the end of that deal. So, like, what does the back end of that deal look like financially for your franchise? So I think you have to make a little bit more business decisions. But obviously, the team is not thinking that far ahead. They're thinking maybe 3-4 years max ahead, not 7 or 8 years down the line. So for the time being, like I said, I think I understand why they took that guy in the second round.
Yeah, and Donuts Duncan, what's going on, man? I think you and Jay Downs, you guys were on a little bit earlier, man. Shout out to you guys. If you guys don't know, man, definitely go hit up Donuts Duncan as well as Jason Downs. Hit them up, man. They go live as well throughout the week. Definitely
I was in their chat. I was in their chat ruffling feathers.
Yeah. I got my windows replaced. I was screaming.
Was trying to deny Ashton Genty got hawked.
Look at this guy.
Kevin Byard hawked him.
I'm not saying nothing because Quark was on. Me and him, we were boys for a little bit with Ty Simpson. Okay, all right. So I gotta ride that out as much as I can. Shout out to you, Quark. But don't think you're saying I'm all for scrapping the cover 3. Do you both think Stokes ends up taking a step back because we go away from the cover 3? I have my take on that. Severe, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think Stokes might take a step back just because teams just might target him more. I think last year he got a big pass because he was rarely targeted. Because we had Caillou Blue Kelly on the other side, or we had, we were just working the stuff underneath, and teams were picking on Devin White like consistently, right? They were just throwing the ball wherever they saw Devin White, throw the ball there. Wherever they saw Caillou Blue Kelly, like the Cowboys game, literally, that was their game plan. You can see it. They were finding where Caillou was, who was on Caillou. That's the guy we're going to, and that's why George Pickens was looking like, like prime Andre Johnson out there. Like, it was ridiculous. So I think just by virtue, I think teams targeting him more. I think that might hurt him. But, we talk about Stokes. The guy that could be hurt the most by this is Darian Porter. Because not only is he a guy that hasn't played the position for a long time as it is, I think only 1 year starter at Iowa State at corner, but his 1 year in the NFL, he was in that cover 3 scheme, and now we're snatching that scheme from under him, which he fits that scheme, just from body type wise. Look at the skill set, his traits, that he's a perfect cover 3 corner. If we take that away from him, and now he has to learn an entirely new system, learn new concepts, like different ways to play press, because it's playing press is different in the cover 3 as it is to some other schemes. Like, he has to learn all that brand new again. So it that could stunt his growth, and he's already an older prospect as it is as well. So, that could shorten the shelf life you have on a guy like him. So, like, it's incumbent upon like our front office and our coaching staff to really do a real good job of coaching these guys up and preparing them, because this could be this could create a tremendous learning curve for some of these corners.
Yeah, for me, I think with Eric Stokes, you bring him back, and it was good that I think they prioritized him to bring him back, because outside of Eric Stokes, we had a very, very young cornerback room. Darren Porter, DC Richardson, like, we just didn't have any veterans. So I think you bring back Eric Stokes because, one, I think he played solid enough to justify him bringing competition into the room, but you need a veteran. And now we go in, and we're going to talk about the other corners, but you go after 2 corners in this draft class that I arguably can say could probably take all the spots in this cornerback room. You know, if Jermod McCoy stays healthy, Hezekiah Masses, I think he's solid enough that he could definitely push this cornerback room. So I think what Eric Stokes brings is veteran presence, as well as really good just competition. And so, but I do see him more as a zone corner, not a man-to-man corner. I just don't see him man-to-man. And kind of same thing with Darian Porter. Now, you could easily say that Darian Porter was a Pete Carroll pick because of the cover 3 scheme. Yeah. And so I think, Severe, it's all the points that you just made, and teams had other places to go to because we were very weak in other places on the defense as it relates to pass defense. I also think that you bring, they brought Eric Stokes back on purpose. He was a free agent, going to go to the market, and they brought him back on purpose, knowing what scheme they're going to run with Robbie Leonard. So they brought him back for a reason. I think he might take a step back just naturally because we've addressed this cornerback room with some young talent that I think can definitely come out and play. So I don't think it's just the cover 3. I think there's some good talent in this cornerback room. So young talent that we need to grow on. But Severe, I agree with you. I think Darian Porter, if that was truly a Pete Carroll pick, it's surprising that you would go and get 2 corners in this draft when you bring back a guy in free agency of Eric Stokes and you drafted a Darian Porter under Spytek's regime. So, yeah, maybe in Darian Porter might his job might be very interesting moving forward. So, hopefully, that answer your questions, Duncan. Let's see, Larry, real quick. I hope Mendoza is able to redshirt the entire year and coming for small spells to acquire some minimal game experience. What's your thoughts? I'll say this first. Actually, it's really quick. I'm always a proponent, and I said this well before the Tom Brady stuff came out. I want a quarterback to sit a full season. It's short-term pain for long-term gain, right? I want a quarterback to learn. If he's ready, then play him. But I want him to learn, and I want him to be a damn good quarterback for the next 13 to 15 years. But I think what they did is they set up the situation really well for Fernando Mendoza. You bring in Kirk Cousins that's going to basically play as long as he does well. And if Kirk Cousins starts to shit the bed by week 8 or 9, then maybe they pull the trigger and we see him. But I think they did a really good job of setting up the situation where Kirk Cousins can play and play as long as they want him to. And they can let Fernando Mendoza sit. So I'm with you. I hope they redshirt him as well and give this kid the best chance to be successful, sit and learn, because, you know, everybody's saying he's taking snaps under center. He's taking snaps. Yeah, he better be. Everybody's saying, see, he's working on it. Well, yeah, he better be, because 1, he didn't do it. And 2, when you see the clips of him working under center, 1, it looks sloppy. And 2, he looks like an 8th grader trying to take a snap for the first time, putting his hand under center. And so it looks very foreign to him. And so him taking the 25 to 50 snaps after practice, yeah, you better. Because you better get all the practice you can. So, but ultimately, yes, I hope they redshirt him. Hopefully he just gets as much time to learn and grow within the NFL system before you throw him into the wolves. So, Severe, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, ideally, he doesn't play this entire year. You know, barring some kind of injury, obviously. That would be the perfect scenario. Him getting like some minimal experience, that means one of 2 things. We're either blowing teams out or we're getting blown out. Which, you know, one of those is more likely than the other. I'll leave it to the chat to decide which one. But ideally, yeah, you just let him sit this year, let him learn the entire year. Hopefully Kirk is keeping us competitive enough and you know, keeping us on enough of a right track in terms of wins and losses that, you know, the coaching staff they don't feel pressure from the fan base to throw a guy out there earlier than he's ready to be thrown out there. So the ideal situation is he sits the entire year. He learns the NFL game. He learns the offense. He gets comfortable completely with the nuances that this system brings, just in terms of taking snaps from under center, you know, turning his back to a defense, you know, doing play action, some of the boot actions we're going to have to do. Like, he gets completely comfortable doing all of that stuff before he's thrown out there. And hopefully in next year's draft, we're able to, you know, identify some weapons, right? Like, we will see right now what we have. We'll identify what we have in Trey. We'll identify what we have in Jack Besh. We'll see what we have on with some of the guys on this roster, and that can let us better better build, some skill positions around him to offer him even more of a chance to succeed.
Yeah, and Severe, I think you got this one.
Oh yeah, I didn't click on that one, but the Emin role. I mean, I don't really think that's his skill set. For Stukes, I don't think like Emin is he was a different kind of animal at South Carolina, man. I don't think Stukes is on that level. I think Stukes is, for the most part, he's going to be in the nickel or he's going to be the deep safety. Chin would probably play the Emin role before Stukes is, to be honest with you. He's as athletic as Stukes, if you think about it. He's bigger build. I think Chin was a 4.3 guy as well when he was coming out. He was coming out of small school. I forget, but I remember that year vividly because I think Carolina ended up picking him up. But I think that was the year that him and Cal Duggar were both small school guys, and they like blew up the senior. They both had really good Senior Bowls. And Cal Duggar went to the Patriots, and Chin went to the Panthers. I believe that was the same year. But yeah, Chin fits the Emin role better than Stukes, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I just think they're the only edge I give Stukes a little bit is I feel like he can kind of play the deep safety, kind of go sideline to sideline a little bit better than Jeremy Chin. But I feel like they're very similar players. So I was trying to figure out exactly between Jeremy Chin, Trayon Stukes, and Isaiah Paul-Mao.
Yeah.
You got three players that look very, very similar and play very similar. How are we going to make it work? And so they all can't play the same position. So do you adjust the scheme? Do you play it differently? Again, 2 high safeties and more of this cover 2 look that defenses are going to now. We'll see how it plays out. So we got another one. What's your guys' favorite pick this year? Severe's last year was Jetty. We're going to get to the favorite pick at the end right away. Appreciate you. And Severe, I don't know if you start the next one.
Yeah, I start that one. Because we don't know right away. If you would have asked people before last year, remember last year, we have the adults in the room, right? That was the big narrative before last year. When I was saying, no, you don't have adults in the room. You have a bunch of geriatrics that are past their prime. And people was like, oh, you know what you're talking about. Have you won the Super Bowl, Severe? Have you never lost more than X amount of games in NFL, Severe? Have you won? That was the narrative last year. We think we have competent coaches this year. Obviously, there's a much better mix of youth and recent success on this coaching staff than there was last year. But whether we have competent coaches or not, that remains to be seen. We think we do, but time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Jack, hey, we'll see you. We'll see you in Bakersfield, big dog. Appreciate you popping up in here. We see you. Dixon, what's going on, man? Tanner Jack, nobody worked harder than Mendoza. Hey, I hope so. Working hard don't mean it transfers to the field, but hey,
nobody worked harder than Tim Tebow. Yes. I mean, I'm not saying Mendoza, Tim Tebow. But I'm just saying, nobody worked harder than Rudy. You feel me? Like hard work would take you a long way, but talent will take you the rest.
So we'll see how it works out, man. But ultimately, yeah, he better work hard. Shit. What up, Dante? What's going on, brother? Appreciate you rocking with us. Remember, guys, like I said earlier in the show, if you guys want to roll over to Dante's channel, man, he covers all things college football, NFL, all the topics, man. Definitely go show some support over there. But I gotta say what's up to this guy real quick. I gotta say what's up. Big John in the building. What's going on?
My guy.
Good seeing you.
Big John would have told you we had a great coaching staff last year. Big John would have told you we had a premier coaching staff last year. If you ask Big John,
I'm with you, Big John. And then Dante, man, you said Stukes should play free safety. He can't tackle well enough, though. So yeah, I said that a little earlier, which is really tough. Yeah. I only was able to watch 3 full games of him. Unfortunately, that's all I could really find. And he misses some open tackles at times. Sometimes he comes and makes a solid tackle. Don't get me wrong, but then you see times where he just misses open field tackles, bad angles, stuff like that. So I hope he just cleans all that up. But between the two, Stukes and Jeremy Chin, I do think he's more of a Stukes it could be a better free safety, and hopefully we play it that way. We'll see though. All right, let's see. And Louis, you're saying Stukes is probably going to play free safety?
Yeah.
Let's see how this thing plays out. All right, let's go next one. Keyron Crawford.
So
thoughts.
This was a pick that was going to give me an aneurysm. This was a pick that was going to piss me off. He's a guy that I know people like the story, the underdog story. I think, I forgot all the different places he went. But then he ended up at Auburn, and he had a great year, and he was better than Keldrick Falk. And Keldrick Falk is a guy I didn't like. I told people early on I didn't like Keldrick Falk. So you telling me the guy has more production than Keldrick Falk? I don't care. I'm not impressed by it. That's like telling me somebody has more production than Tyree Wilson. Okay, and my next question will be because I don't think Keldrick Falk was that good of a player. People liked him because obviously some of the measurables and stuff with Keldrick Falk, but I was never personally a fan of him. Keyron Crawford, first of all, number 24 as an edge, bro. Come on, dog. Come on, man. Come on, man. That pisses me off immediately. I just don't think there was value there for this guy and Keyron Crawford. Now, obviously, I know a lot of people love him. He did pop on tape some. One of the benefits that he has is that he does have some experience as a stand-up rusher. So he has that going for him. And obviously we got guys like, we jettisoned Tyree Wilson, who I will miss the perennial. This is the year Tyree breaks out severe. Just wait and see. This is the Tyree breakout year. So I'm going to miss those conversations on IG and on X. We don't have to deal with that anymore. So we jettisoned Tyree. Malcolm Kuntz was on the last year. We just signed a 1-year deal. We got rid of Snowden. So we're putting a lot of eggs in the Keyron Crawford basket. For me, a guy in the 3rd round, that's a starter, right? First round, I'm looking for a guy that's going to be a perennial all-pro player, potential Hall of Fame guy. That's the kind of guys I'm looking for in the 1st round. The 2nd round, I'm looking for a plus starter, Pro Bowl level player, knocking on the door of all-pro. 3rd round, I need a starter or a valuable rotational piece. So at the time, as we drafted Keyron, I didn't know if he could be either of those. Now, we had traded Tyree, so that kind of cleared the picture up a little bit. But with us getting rid of Charles Snowden, he's a guy that should be a starter. He should be a starter, right? Maybe Malcolm Kuntz beats him out. Depending on what the regime is thinking, whether they value some production now or whether they want to get Keyron Crawford on the field immediately. But it's still, I just don't think. I think there were better players on the board at positions of need than Keyron Crawford. And I think if we wanted to take a guy like that, we could have waited. So, and I think, it's not necessarily his fault. I know we gave Mason Graham some grief about it last year, but day 2 of rookie minicamp, he's sitting out. He's on the sideline. Day 2 of rookie minicamp. It's like, come on, man. So I didn't think the value was there, but we shall see. We shall see. I hope I'm wrong on this because we've been looking for a guy that could complement Max for a while. We thought we drafted one when we got Tyree. We had a glimpse of what it would look like when Malcolm was balling down the last half of that season before he tore his ACL. I know the coaching staff was extremely excited about what he was doing that offseason. And then obviously he had that injury and he hasn't been the same since. So we're hoping that Keyron Crawford can be the guy. But I just think there were other places we could have gone with that pick. And the fact that we took a guy that I personally feel was a reach. This may be the Keyron Crawford may be probably my least favorite pick of this. Oh, no, there's another guy that I like less. But this is one of my least favorite picks of this draft class.
I'm with you. I'm going to get my take here real quick. But, hey, what up, Rafa, man? Appreciate you. Appreciate you throwing out a super chat out there, big dog, man. Guys, make sure you guys go hit up Rafa's channel, man. But he always taps in with us, man. Appreciate you, big dog. Man, he covers all boxing, UFC, all that fun stuff. Definitely go show some love, man. But, Rafa, I appreciate you popping in with us. And then, Rick L, we're going to talk about Snowden here in just a minute, man. But appreciate you rocking. I see you. And Angelo, I know you guys, the Crawford with the boxing, I get you. But you said Crawford will be the Kuntz replacement if Malcolm doesn't produce. Okay, and I like that you put that because this is going to kind of lead me into what these next 2 picks to me feel like. Okay, so you said that Crawford will be the Kuntz replacement if Malcolm doesn't produce. Well, if Malcolm does produce, then that means Crawford's on the sideline. if he does prove Malcolm's on Crawford's on the sideline. To Severe's point, first round, second round, third round. Look, I want bona fide starters. I want guys that are going to come in and you are going to plug them in right now, and you want them to be able to develop as starters from day one. Because especially first round, but in the second and third round, you don't get that fifth year option. So if you only get 4 years with these guys and you put that much capital of a second or even third round into them, you want to be able to try to plug them in as soon as possible, because you realistically only get 4 years. And if that first year is development, then that's really 3 strong years, right? And then maybe you resign them, whatever their future looks like. But you don't get that fifth year option. So you want them to plug in right now, and you want them to play. And the problem that I'm having with not just the Keyron Crawford, as well as the Trey Zuhn, we're going to talk about Trey Zuhn, is these two guys feel like what we were talking about last year. And this is why I'm having some issues, is that everybody's saying, oh, we're gearing up for next year. Well, I was hearing that last year, and now we're drafting guys that are potentially going to replace guys we got last year. So Trey Zuhn, we got Caleb Rogers. And everybody's like, well, we're gearing up for next year. Well, is Trey Zuhn going to replace Caleb Rogers, or is it JPJ? I don't know which one, but is he going to be a replacement of a guy that we thought we were building for next year? Then everybody wants to say, oh, but we need to get a right tackle or a left tackle. But then we have Charles Grant. Charles Grant is kind of that developmental piece. And they were saying the same thing. Well, we're gearing up for next year. Well, where's Charles Grant playing this? Then you got Jack Besh. Jack Besh was a former tight end. Only had 1 year as a receiver. And I heard a lot of people say he's the next Puka Nacua, which was a wild, crazy-ass take. But it's development for next year. And maybe Jack Besh is going to be it this year. I don't know. But the tape tells us a different story, I guess. Darian Porter, former receiver, 1 year at corner. So you're kind of developing him, but then we just went ahead and drafted 2 potentially starting corners. So what's Darian Porter's future? With Keyron Crawford, I hear a lot with this draft of we're building for next year. Well, then why don't we get guys this year and then take rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 and build for the following year? Like that's essentially how you do it. And there were true plug-and-play starters the second and third round. Trayon Stukes, he's going to start. So I don't have a problem with that. May not have been the way I went, but he's going to be a day 1 starter. So I'm cool with that. But day 3, you had starting receivers that could have easily plugged in and played, whether it be Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee, whether it be Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. Like those would have been day 1 starters. You had some D tackles. Now, again, I said very clearly that depending if we go early or late is going to be dependent on, or is going to give us an idea as to what Robbie Leonard's going to want to do. So we waited till late. So I don't think a nose guard is going to be a true need, but we're going to talk about Laki Tasi here in a little bit. Keyron Crawford, to me, you might be gearing up for next year, but holy shit, why don't we there were players that could have been day 1 starters. And then there were edge rushers in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round that you could have taken, that could have been the build guys, that could have been the let's develop them for next year. Again, a guy that I really liked out of Iowa, Max Llewellyn. I think that kid could be a damn good developmental piece that you could have got in the 7th round. That could have been a role player that could have came in and took away, 10 to 12 snaps. What's Keyron Crawford going to be? Are we developing him for next year? Maybe, so it's a big question mark in the 3rd round. And for me, I would have gotten a day 1 starter to come in and make an impact on this team, which there were guys there. And so ultimately, in my opinion, when it comes to Keyron Crawford, and we're talking about Trey Zuhn in just a second, these guys literally better have a massive impact on this team, because if they don't end up playing, or if they end up being just very, very mediocre, and some of these guys that were still left on the board go to their other teams and absolutely ball, it's going to give us that take that we've had for so many years of, well, they didn't work out, but damn it, this guy was on the board. But he didn't work out, but damn it, this guy was on the board. See, I wanted a D tackle. See, I wanted a receiver. It just opens the door, because these guys just have question marks. And I hear everybody talk about them, and they're saying, well, they could be solid rotational pieces. I don't draft rotational pieces, or don't want to, in the 3rd round. And shout out to Dones Duncan. I see him here. He says, even if Zuhn doesn't start, he brings a bunch of value as a sixth O lineman. I don't want a sixth O lineman in the third. I like the pick, but we had Caleb Rogers. That's a SpyTech guy. You drafted him. We have JPJ. I want a day one starter. And that's how I think, in my opinion, you build a team. And I think this is the mistake we've been making for so many years is we draft these players and other players are on the board. We drafted Jack Besh. Other players were on the board. Caleb Rogers, even in my opinion, I thought Charles Grant was a little bit early, but even Deontay Thornton, there was guys on the board. Darian Porter, guys were on the board that could have been.
Charles Grant is my guy, and I thought we reached on. I was looking at Charles Grant like late fourth, early fifth, and that's my guy. That's the guy I identified early in the process. So when we take him into the third, I was extremely surprised.
So it's not about the players themselves, even though Keyron Crawford, I think it was very early. I think you could have got him a little bit later on. Again, I don't know what other boards look like, but I do think if you watch him, right, he's kind of a tweener, right? Like he can work out as a decent pass rusher. They like to play him off ball a little bit, but I don't think that's his skill set at all. So it's like, where is he actually going to be? Is he going to be a third down pass rusher? Maybe, but it just creates the question mark. I don't like drafting a bunch of question marks in the third round when you could literally plug and play somebody and he's your guy and you got that starting receiver. So that's the problem I have with it. It's not necessarily the player themselves. And we'll talk about Zuhn in just a second. It's just about why we drafted them and the role that they're going to play as a third rounder. So,
yeah. I mean, and like there are other guys on the board. If you want to go, you could have waited on an edge player, in my opinion, and still got a guy later on. I don't know. I remember where Barham went from Michigan, but I know a lot of people liked him. The guy Dennis Scott, Danny Dennis Scott, I think he went later. Like, there were some guys that we could have waited and we could have addressed like what I feel is an immediate need in terms of like a legitimate number one or potential number one receiver. There are still guys in the third round that they could potentially turn into number one receivers that we passed on. Unfortunate, but we'll see. Like I'm like I said, if we end up getting the value out of Keyron Crawford, he turns into, a good pass rusher, a good complement to maxxcrosby. This ultimately will be looked at as a good pick. As of right now, I don't think it was the right pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll see. Pool, what's going on, brother? I'll give you the Raiders, man. Appreciate your focus. Alfred can sneak his way into the lineup, 6'2" corner. We're going to talk about UDFAs here.
Yeah, offered. Yes, it was a Kennesaw State.
Yeah. Let's see. Again, do me a big favor, guys. Hit that hashtag Raiders if you have something for us or commenting based on what we're saying, because it catches my eye. And so, what up, Rosetown? I see you. What's up? What's going on, big dog? Dante, Romel Height. Hey, Romel Height got picked like
Danny didn't say that's
Keyron or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, in Overton out of Alabama, I did like him. And so.
I mean, people, Caden Curry. I know how people feel about Caden Curry at Ohio State. I think he was still available a little bit later too. If you want, some experimental or some guys.
Yeah, and so ultimately with Keyron Crawford, what makes it difficult is he has to work out as a third rounder. He has to, especially given there were so many other needs that we could have addressed at that point. So we'll see. Again, guys, do me a huge favor. I'm scrolling through quickly as much as I can to kind of get to the bottom. Hit that hashtag Raiders if you can. Got Trey Zuhn next up, man. Severe thoughts on Trey Zuhn. Again, chat. Let me know. Hit that hashtag Raiders if you put a comment before. Retype it in at the end. Hit that hashtag Raiders, and I will. I'll get to it. Severe thoughts.
Yeah, I would say on draft night, Keyron Crawford on day two. Keyron Crawford was probably my most hated pick. I hated Trey Zuhn as well at the time. Processing it now, I think it was solid. I think it's a solid pick. He's a guy that offers you some versatility and on the interior. He can play. Ideally, he doesn't play center. Yeah, I don't like the idea of a 6'6" center. Fortunately, we have a 6'5" quarterback, so we can make it work. But 6'6" center, it's not the ideal situation. Also, at guard, I question his strength at the point of attack. He's a guy that's extremely athletic. I think he has experience at both tackle spots, and people think he may have the ability at the NFL level to play both tackle spots. There are some arm length issues there with him, so that could impact whether or not he can truly play left or right tackle in the league. But in terms of athleticism, he's a guy that has all the athleticism you want on the interior, especially in the zone system, to be able to do some of the pulling and stuff that will be required. Big guy, lots of experience. Ruben Bain, when Ruben Bain asked who was the best tackle he played in college football last year, the first name he did with no hesitation. He said Trey Zuhn. Now I think Bain, I wasn't all against Trey Zuhn, but Bain that game had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a blocked field goal. So, and Mesidor had a sack and a half in that game as well. It wasn't all on Trey Zuhn, so I don't want to make it seem like, like Trey Zuhn was out there getting cooked. But Bain had a really good game that game. And Trey Zuhn was the one that put bulletin board material out there because he said they weren't worried. The offensive line wasn't worried about the Miami defensive line. I think they held them to like 7 points that game. Like I said, they had as a team, they had 10 sacks. So, so he was writing checks that his ass couldn't cash, but he offers some versatility. One of the important things in the NFL is who you carry on your game day roster. If you have a guy with that kind of versatility, that can play both guard spots, can maybe fill in a pinch at both tackle spots, that offers you a little bit more flexibility in terms of who you bring up and have active on game day. So maybe instead of having to bring extra offensive linemen, you have a guy that you feel comfortable enough at all of those spots where you can maybe bring up some additional skill players to help on special teams, or bring up an additional edge rusher to keep the other guys you have a little bit more fresh. He offers you some of that. Do I think he starts this year? I don't know. I'm looking at a guy like Caleb Rogers, who he first of all, he had experience. When he actually got some playing time, I think he held his own, and he has something that I didn't see out of Trey Zuhn, and that was on the field. Caleb Rogers he's a mean, nasty individual, and he plays with that level of viciousness and feistiness that I want personally out of my offensive lineman. I didn't see that out of Trey Zuhn. I saw a good feed out of Trey Zuhn. I saw good mirroring skills, solid athleticism. I didn't see a whole lot of strength at the point of attack. I didn't see any nastiness out of him in terms of wanting to impose your will on your opponent and be a guy that after the whistle you're doing some of the some of the rough tactics. I like that kind of stuff out of my we talk about JPJ. We talk about my guy that played for the Dolphins and for the Bills for forever. That we had that was hurt with us. What was my guy's name? What I'm talking about, the guard Incognito. We talking about Incognito. I don't see that out of Zuhn. I don't see that kind of nastiness out of Zuhn. And like I said, just in terms of his strength at the point of attack to play guard, I play strength. I didn't see it. But look, man, Rebel, bro. 33 reps don't mean a damn thing, bro. That doesn't mean a damn thing in terms of playing strength, dog. That's people say stuff like this lets me know you either never played or you never lifted weights. Because how many reps you do on any particular exercise, it involves 2 things. Is it some strength? Yes, but a lot of that is just repetition, stamina, and muscle recruitment. It's training your nervous system to be able to lift this weight enough times. Obviously, you're building strength. That takes muscle fibers too, but that doesn't have anything to do with your play strength, brother. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
So go out real quick. You said y'all don't think the draftees can start this year. I see at least 7 that can start tomorrow for the Raiders. We'll talk about the starters afterwards. Look, I think that there are definitely some players that could start for sure. But we'll definitely tap into that towards the end. Trey and they still ain't draft Landon Robinson. Yeah, I think he went late. I think I saw him drafted the 7th. I think it was maybe.
Yeah, I forgot who got him too.
Yeah, but shout out to you, man.
Was it the Ravens that picked him up? I forgot. Or was the Dolphins? I forgot. It was a pretty good team that picked him up. I forgot who it was though.
Good old Willie Lampkin. But man, yes, Rebel, I will agree with you on this side though. JPJ's injury prone and was not a SpyTek guy. Yeah, we've said that in the past. So that might be the replacement. without question.
Oh,
So
I looked it up. Right now. Landon went to Cincinnati.
he went to Cincy.
Yeah, not great. But they what's the guy that they had that was undersized D tackle? Was it Geno Atkins? Had Geno Atkins for a while. I mean, undersized, and people thought he was undersized, and he turned into a damn good player. So maybe they think they can do something similar with Landon.
Yeah. So, Mr. Anderson, we're going to talk about just kind of what's left in free agency probably on Wednesday. So tap in with that. We're going to try to get to the rest of these topics a little bit. Juice favor. Let's see. Hold up. Let's go. Brandon. Yep. There's a lot of guys left on the table. So we'll see. A lot of guys left on the table for sure. We'll see just kind of how it all works out with some of these guys. Just my opinion on Zuhn, right? I do like him. The only thing when you watch Zuhn, and probably why Zuhn did a really good job against Bain, to be honest with you, is because Bain's not the most athletic guy in the world. And so when I watch Zuhn go against some more athletic edge rushers, his feet were just a little slow to gather sometimes against the more athletic edge rushers. And even getting to the second level, I saw him sometimes take some bad angles to the linebackers, which ultimately he ends up overrunning linebackers undercutting his block, and they still have the angle to the running back. So I saw some, and I think a lot of people have kind of questioned his not just his run blocking, but like I think they said that his pass blocking is definitely more superior than his run blocking, and I could see that on film. But ultimately, I'm just trying to figure out, is he an actual true tackle? Is he going to be more slated for the interior? And
they announced him as a guard. I think a lot of people had him as a center prospect. When they announced him, they announced it as a guard. So the Raiders turned in the card with him as guard.
So I'm
not a rapper.
Really curious as to where he's going to play. If it is on the interior, then where is he going to? What spot is he going to take? And is he going to be a day one starter? So I just don't know what the intent is, and we got to see how it plays out. And that's why I ultimately, at the end of the day, gave the great idea of this entire draft class, is because literally it's these two guys right here. Keyron, Crawford, Trey, Zuhn. Are they day one starters? If they are, who are they replacing, and how are they going to ultimately work out? Because I think what you did on the back end of this draft is you pick some good guys, but then there's also some question marks that you're sitting there going, man, like if you got day one starters the first 3 rounds, then the guys in this back half of the draft would make more sense. The day 3 guys would make a lot more sense if you got true day one starters. So with these two guys, I just got to see how it plays out before I could actually truly understand what the direction is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's that. Yeah, I mean, Fernando Mendoza is the obviously the hugest one, but yeah, Keyron, Crawford, and Zuhn. Like if those guys don't pan out, we're gonna be looking back. And he ran. Okay, so I was off. Okay, so I think Jeremy Chan, when he ran the 40, I think he was 221 pounds, and Trayon Stukes is 190. I'll take 4.4 at 220 out of my safety. I'll take that.
Yeah, 100%. Raider Devellion, what's going on, man? Just tapped in severe shitting on the draft. Hey, we got some positive takes. Take it easy. We got some positive takes. I just said I hope it was good to see Mendoza make the Raider fan base happy. See, we're staying positive. You said glad we didn't get another receiver since what was left was a bunch of number 2s. Well, we're still left with a bunch of number 2s in our receiver room. I don't know what to tell you, but there was number 1s left on this draft, potential number 1s in that 3rd round. Let's see. What up, Off Kasi? What's going on, big dog? What's happening, man? You're saying at the same time there was reason Bain and Messidor were first rounders and the most disruptive edge duo in college football last year. He took them one-on-one that game and won all but 1 rep. Hey, look, shout out to him. And even with Ruben Bain saying that Zuhn was, without question, the best tackle he went up against, definitely gives him credit. Definitely just want to see what his role is going to be, given that he was a 3rd rounder, right? Yeah. And if he's going to be a rotational piece or battle, maybe you want to get that on day 3, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Raider Pete, real quick, saying Zuhn's highlights at left tackle is impressive. Midseason starter incoming. All right.
Yeah, I want to say they said something like he had the highest passing. A PFF had the highest like pass block grade they've ever recorded, or something crazy like that. But what's ironic is that the year we drafted him, Delmar Glaze, aka DJ Glaze, I think he had the highest PFF grade pass blocking that year too. So the PFF, it remains to be seen. The PFF may need to tweak their model though.
PFF always need to tweak their goddamn shit, but that's neither here nor there. So and again, like I always try to preface, like highlights are one thing, but definitely one strategy that I always use is if you go and you look up, for example, if you want Texas A&M, go look at Texas A&M offense versus, and it'll show you all the plays, all for every single or all plays for all the games. You can find clips or videos on YouTube that will give you every single play. So don't just look at highlights. Definitely look at all the reps because it gives you just a better idea. But again, at least that's just what I do. Last one, Mario. I love the show, but sometimes overanalyze things. I'm guilty of it. Okay, but I'll just try to give you my true assessment. I might overanalyze, but I think that's why a lot of times we end up being right. And that's not bragging. That's literally what happens 90% of the time. So, all right, Severe, this is your one. This is your pick. This is your pick, man. You were calling it before it happened. Jermod McCoy. Which thoughts? Chat, let us know. Hashtag Raiders.
Yeah, man, Jermod McCoy, I think this could end up being, the steal of the entire draft, one of the biggest steals in recent years, if he's able to return to the form that he had the year prior to this year. What's unfortunate about him is that, he came over from Oregon State, came to Tennessee, had an incredible year. He had a really good year at Oregon State too. He had an incredible year at Tennessee. And then, he gets hurt and misses the entire year. But what people saw on film that initial year was so good that they were still going to take him in the first round, or a lot of people were still saying he's still probably a first round prospect. He goes out there, does his pro day, runs, I think, a 4.38. Correct me if I'm wrong, Money Chuck, since you like to pick up the scraps behind me. Let me know if it was a 4.38 or not. I could be misstating it. So I could be off a tenth of a second. Maybe it was a 4.28 or 4.48. Let me know. But he goes out there, he runs a good 40, has a good workout, and then people are saying, oh yeah, basically this solidifies him as a first round pick after that workout. And then some medical stuff comes out and it scares a lot of teams. I know one thing that people wondered about was, why did the Raiders trade up? I think we had the second pick in the 4th round, if I recall correctly. We traded from the second pick in the 1st round to the top pick in the 4th round. And what I was reading was that there was something about contracts in the 4th round, or for guys that are drafted in the 4th round, where there's some kind of protection offered that's not offered in other rounds. I forget exactly what it was. So that's what made drafting him in the 4th round the ideal spot to do it. And that could be what prompted the Raiders to trade up to the top pick of the 4th round to prevent any other teams from trying to jump them and trade into that top spot to take him as well. So he's a guy that, he has everything you want in a number one corner. And if he's able to get on the field and stay healthy, I think this is a guy that can be, he has all pro potential.
Yeah. So, and I'm with you. Like, I didn't know much about the kid, to be dead honest, when we went into the 4th round. I didn't know much about him. I just knew that he had a high upside, but didn't do a lot of research. The more and more research I did, he ultimately, I'm with you, he could end up being an absolute steal this draft. I know there's that knee issue that's out there. Whether or not what I've heard, I could be wrong. Definitely chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there's a fear that if he continues to play on it without the surgery, it could gradually get worse. So ultimately, he's going to have the surgery at some point. And if he does have that surgery and it's not successful, which there's a large enough percentage to where it definitely has to concern you a little bit. Does it not work out? I hope that if that day comes, he has that surgery and it's successful, or let's say he doesn't have to and he just balls. If this pick works and turns out to be the still a draft, man, that's amazing. Only downside is, and again, this is just to me, and this is ultimately how we have to figure out if this draft, if he plays out, if for some reason Jermod McCoy doesn't work out and the injury hits him, and like some people have said, it could end his career, and these two guys don't work out.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to point to SpyTek and go, God damn it, this is a trend now. It's a trend that you're drafting nothing but projects, and a lot of these projects aren't working out. If you would have gotten 4 bona fide starters in this draft, and then you get this, even if it works out, man, you look like a goddamn genius. But even if it didn't work out, but the guys before him really work out, then I think I could be more comfortable with this not working out. That's a hell of a gamble, right?
Yeah.
But it just kind of goes back to these guys. If they work out, that's great, but it's all a question mark right now. So that is my only issue with this pick is I wish we didn't pick 2 question marks before him, given the fact that he's a question mark himself.
Yeah.
Crazy high upside.
Yeah.
Medium risk, right? You just don't know.
Yeah.
But you just don't know how it's going to work out. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I hope it works out.
Yeah. It's like, look, I look at it like this. We took a 4th round Tennessee guy last year that, was a bigger risk, has bigger risk, right? Like Dante Thornton is. So, I'd rather take the risk on the upside that Jermod McCoy offers than the risk on the upside that Deontay Thornton offered, even though people were telling me he was Randy Moss and Megatron, but before the year started.
No, yeah. And I'll address this one just real quick. Dan, you're saying, my question, are you guys still upset Raiders took Mendoza and not trade back? I still want the trade back to this day. I still want him. He's a Raider now. So we're rooting for him. I want him to be the best, like everybody think he's going to be. So he's a Raider now. There's no point in being upset about it. I still want the trade back. So, and yes, Arnold, he's only 20 years old. Yeah, he's young.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
He's out there practicing, and even if he sits for a year for whatever reason, he's still young, and hopefully it works. Are you gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the positive about him is that he was asked about it, and he immediately said, "I'm gonna leave the decision in the team's hands." And I think rookie minicamp has started already. He was out there stretching and doing some of the stuff with the team. Obviously, he wasn't involved in any of like the real team activities, but the stretching, I think like some of the initial running he was involved with. And then later on in the sessions, he was to the side, working with a trainer. So that could be some positive. I think he was also fielding punch too. So that could be a positive development. But, it kind of remains to be seen.
No, it does. So, all right, let's get to this one down here. Mike Washington Jr. All right, I believe this was the one where we kind of traded up a little bit to go get our guy. So Mike Washington Jr., he is now going to be kind of that 1-2 punch in that backfield with Ashton Genty. And so, chat, let us know what your thoughts are. We're going to get to some UDFAs. We're going to talk about Charles Snowden. We're also going to talk about Laki Tasi moving on to the defense. But let us know what your thoughts are on Mike Washington. Severe, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man, Mike Washington. Excuse me, Mike Washington. I think he jumped on a lot of people's radars when I think he's like 6'2", 220 something, and he ran a 4.33. Correct me if I'm wrong, Money Chuck. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was 4.33 as well. So at that, a guy running back, when you have those kind of measurables, he instantly, jumped on people's radars. I think people went back and looked at what he did at Arkansas. And, I think he averaged like 6 yards a carry, something like that. Put up, I think, 1,100 yards this final year. So he's a guy that, a lot of people, just based on his traits, the physical traits, he was high on a lot of people's radars. And he was high. He jumped on my radar as well. I saw that. I looked at some of the highlights, and I was impressed. And then I saw some of the other stuff surrounding him, and I got a little bit concerned about it. Right? Obviously, he's a guy. I think 7 fumbles. That is troubling. He's not a guy that has a lot of wiggle. So is that necessary out of your running back? Not necessarily. So something you would like to have, or some make a guy miss ability outside of just trying to run past people or run over them. I don't see him as a real natural runner. But as I was telling you guys in the chat, we have Rick Dennison here, and Rick Dennison, I believe he was offensive coordinator the year that the Broncos had Mike Anderson Jr. And Mike Anderson Jr., if I could recall correctly, let me know if I'm wrong, Money Chuck. I think Mike Anderson Jr. was offensive rookie of the year.
Money Chuck.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. I'm going off the dome here, so I appreciate you the corrections here and the annotations and all of that stuff. It's much appreciated. But I think Mike Anderson Jr. the year Rick Dennison was there, and because Rick Dennison started with the Broncos as a special teams coordinator, then he transitioned to the offensive side of the ball. So he might have still been special teams coordinator that first year Mike Anderson was there, and then transitioned to the offensive side of the ball. I don't recall, but he was there for Mike Anderson. And in this zone scheme, Mike Anderson was a very productive player as essentially the same style of back, a bigger body back with good speed, one cut runner, right? You're taking that thing outside or you're cutting it upfield. And that's what Mike Anderson was able to do extremely effectively in his offense. We talked about Lendis Gary was another guy that wasn't really like a household name. And he was another back that was able to be extremely productive in this system as well. So I'm looking at it like if he's just that one cut and go type runner, and he can use his speed to kind of outrun the angles on some defenders, use his size as a running back to break some tackles. I think it's a pick that I can get behind. We obviously need a compliment to Ashton Jeanty. He offers the kind of juice as a runner that Ashton Jeanty just doesn't have. As evidence, as my guy Querick knows, Ashton Jeanty got hawked by Kevin Byard. So Ashton Jeanty doesn't have that breakaway speed. But Mike Washington does. So I think it could be a good compliment. And obviously we want a guy that can take some of the workload off of Ashton Jeanty. I like Damon Claiborne, but admittedly, Damon Claiborne, from what Kubiak was saying, it seems like he wants a true dual back system, not like a primary back and a second guy. He wants like a true dual system. And Damon Claiborne, I don't know if he has the build to necessarily hold up over the long call with those type of carries. Obviously, Mike Washington does, and he's a guy that can really be a good complement where they can go one drive or two drives for Ashton, one drive for him, or two drives and one drive back and forth. And I think his body can hold up because he'll be a little bit more durable than maybe some of these smaller backs.
Yeah, I mean, and just the lack of, I guess, carries he had in college. I mean, his body's still healthy.
Yeah,
with Washington, with Mike Washington. So I think for myself, I wanted another running back to complement Jeanty, right? Genty's going to be our number one. He has to be. He's a number 6 overall pick, right? He's got to get the majority of carries, but you needed somebody that was going to be able to complement him. And the things that Jeanty just didn't show a lot of last year. One, it was short yardage, because ultimately I could care less. He's 5'8", like 210 pounds, 215 pounds between there. I mean, he showed that he's not going to be able to lower his helmet and consistently get those short yardages. It just didn't happen. So you want someone that can complement that. But at the same time, if you could get somebody that could just absolutely change the field of possession, and that's Mike Washington. He's got the speed. If you give him just a little bit of a crease, right, he's gone.
Yeah.
Now, does he have the moves in the open space? No. Like, that's the one thing that he just doesn't have. I mean, he is literally that he flows. He's not that one cut stop guy. Like, he's not going to stop and all of a sudden take off on you. Like, that's not him, right? He's going to flow and he's going to weave through the defense. And if a safety gets a good angle on him, he's most likely going to get tackled because he just doesn't have that shake ability. But if he can get the leverage to the outside and he's got that, and he's got the angle to the sideline, there's a good chance he's going to take it for yard. That's why, honestly, even if we run the ball, if we run the ball 30 times a game, that's roughly 50% of the time, Jeanty can take, 65% of those carries. But I had a bold take that I said last Wednesday. I think they could split carries that way where it's like 65, 60-40, 70-30, whatever it is. Mike Washington might end up having very similar yardage than Genty. Because where Genty can rip off, 70, 80 yards, Mike Washington can get 40, 50 of that in one carry. So we'll see. We'll see just kind of works out. But what I do like is the fact that they addressed another running back in the room, because I've always been kind of a 1-2 punch guy. I've always been a running back by committee guy.
Yeah, that's what I've always been as well.
Bringing Mike Washington in. We're going to talk about the UDFAs. I know people are talking about Roman Hembi.
Yeah.
Roman Hemby's probably going to be more like that short yardage guy, so there's a good chance to make the team. But Mike Washington is not the short yardage guy, though.
No.
He's way too upright. And I think I don't know where he fumbled. I never saw his fumbles, but I could assume that maybe some of his fumbles happened at the line of scrimmage, in between the tackle, maybe. Because when you run upright, these defenders are going to get your chin. And I see that quite often. I saw him try to take the carries sometimes on the goal line, and he gets in there at times, but he also is just very upright through the line of scrimmage, which, bro, you can't do that at your height. So, or shit ever in the NFL.
Yeah.
But, it's a really good job of them going after a running back to complement Genty, because even if there's a chance Genty gets a second contract with us, you need somebody that's going to prolong his career. Exactly. So, all right, next up, Trayon Stukes. No, I'm sorry. Dalton Johnson. Dalton Johnson, Arizona safety. Chat, let me know. Hit that hashtag Raiders. What you guys think about this guy? We're going to get to the UDFAs and a couple other topics, but a couple more. Severe Man, what's your thoughts on Dalton Johnson?
Absolutely hated this pick. Despised this pick. Still don't like it. Still doesn't make any sense to me at all why you would draft that guy where you drafted him. Unless they're just completely done with Palomao and Chen, and they're just waiting. They're just, hey, we're done with you guys. We're gonna let you guys play out your contract, and then you're out of here, and we don't want anything else to do with you. And we don't feel that we can find a guy better than Dalton Johnson for whatever reason, like next year or on the open market. But other than that, I don't think this was great value. Doubling up on safety in the draft. I think safety is not like we drafted 2 safeties before we drafted a wide receiver or a defensive tackle. That doesn't. 2 safeties are on the same team. It doesn't make any sense. And at the time of the pick, I hated the pick. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe they talked to Trayon Stukes and they asked Trayon Stukes, because GMs will do this from time to time, and they'll say, hey, X player X, who was a guy on your team that is slept on, that maybe the rest of the league doesn't know about, but you know about, that you think will be a good pro? And good GMs will do that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe that was what they did with Stukes. And Stukes was around that program for a long time, and he would know. And then I hear Stukes talk, and he says Dalton Johnson is my best friend. And I'm like, well, damn. There goes that theory, because if that is what happened, then it was obviously he's gonna say my best friend on the team. Yeah, he was the best guy. So I just don't like the pick, man. He has, I want to say some positives. He has positional versatility. I think he did play both safety spots, and he did play some nickel as well. But I just don't think I don't think the value was there to grab him in the 5th round. And there were more pressing needs, and I think there were players that offered a little bit more upside than him that were still available. Now, if your argument is that we're adding depth and we want core special teams guys, I understand that. But at this point in the draft, I would still rather go with some higher upside guys or positions that are more valuable than taking another safety.
No, I'm with you. And what, again, this is just who I would have went with. I mean, right after him, Zakee Wheatley was taken out of Penn State. Like a true free safety. Again, I don't know if Trayon Stukes is going to be in the free safety. Obviously, they were much higher on Dalton Johnson, but Zakee Wheatley was right there. I liked him better in the 5th round if you're going to go safety. But yeah, in my opinion, there was just guys that were kind of later in the draft that I thought, or at that point, that you could have possibly targeted before another safety. And I know a lot of people say that, and he could be a really good special teams ad, like he can go down there and play some special teams. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I wasn't a big fan of this pick. I'm still not a big fan of this pick. And so we'll see kind of how it works out. Because it's also trying to address other needs. And at this point, like you're saying, like we didn't even address a receiver at this point, unfortunately. And I'm telling you, if we go in next year and we sit there and go, holy shit, we needed a receiver, this is a bad receiver room, or other guys needed help, we can look back and go, we never addressed it early in the draft, unfortunately. So I'm not the biggest fan of this either, but we'll see how it plays out. I know a lot of people, I think, liked it as it relates to just maybe a rotational piece, moving on from Isaiah Polamau for next year. Maybe he steps in next year. I don't disagree with that, but a lot of these picks are like, oh, we're banking on next year. Yeah. It's like, well, what about this year? So we'll see. Next up, Hezekiah Masses. I'll just say this first, and Severe, I'll throw it to you. Chat, let us know. I mean, this is a guy that I was high on later in the rounds. And so I like this pick. Yeah. I do think this is going to create massive competition. Again, 5th round, you like to address that. I wish we would have gotten some day one starters earlier, but these are the rounds where you get guys that can come in that have high upside, that can compete for a potential starting position, but also give you benefit in special teams. I think Hezekiah Masses is a hell of a pick at this spot. What's your thoughts?
No, that was one of my favorite picks in this draft, just in terms of where we got him, the value. I think he's a guy that I think could have gone early in the 5th, late in the 4th. You get a guy with his kind of experience, his measurables. I think, and obviously we hate our secondary. Like, that's just plain and simple. We hate our secondary. And he's a guy that if, let's say we want to move on from DCAM, he's a guy that can fill that void. Let's say Darian Porter is a guy that, isn't handling the transition between schemes well. I think Hezekiah Masses is a guy that can step in and kind of fill that void as well. So I think where we got Hezekiah Masses, I like that pick. I like that pick. I like the player. I like how he plays the game, the level of intelligence. I like the size at the corner position. I think this was a real good pick. And coming off that Dalton Johnson pick, when we took Masses, I was like, okay, I was able to calm down. I was able to woosah and calm down a little bit because, like I said, obviously we're trying to remake the secondary. So that starts with adding some younger pieces. I didn't feel safety was necessarily still in need, but adding some more corners that weren't cover 3 guys. I think that was a need, and the fact that we got McCoy and we got Masses, I think that could bode well for us, especially just in terms of depth and considering the guys ahead of them. We have yet to see what they will look like in this new defense.
Yeah, I actually think for him, he can come in and definitely compete. So I think it's going to be a really good addition. Obviously, we're stacking kind of this cornerback room. I think we can also talk about, I think it was Donis Duncan that gave the question about, Eric Stokes. What role does he play with Jermod McCoy and now Hezekiah Masses? Yeah, I think Darian Porter. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting road for him. I think the one player that without question now is on whether it be just, is he going to make the 53-man roster, is DC Richardson.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like DCAM, it just doesn't look like he is going to be in the cards with that 53-man roster at this point. And so, because remember, we brought back Eric Stokes. So they wanted him back, or they would have released him to free agency. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. And real quick, Rebel, trust the process. We can trust the process, but also you got to give the evaluation, right? And this is what we do. We're going to try to trust the process, but we're also going to be just constructive criticism. You're saying GM is thinking long-term and addresses needs in free agency. You can do both. And I think this is where I hear this comment a lot is, well, we're thinking long-term. You can think long-term, but you also have to hit today. Because if you constantly think long-term, and if those long-terms don't work out, then you're going to find yourself constantly reaching every single draft. And it's just like last year. I heard the same thing last year with all the picks that we had was, oh, we're thinking long-term with a lot of these players, or we're thinking next year, and then they don't hit, and all of a sudden we find ourselves doing the exact same thing. You know, with Trey Zuhn, now he's going to be possibly be an interior guy, or Crawford, and now, you know, he's going to be not this year, but next year. You find yourself constantly reaching for the next year development. And so you got to hit today, but you can also think long-term. So then and you might just be addressing just Dalton Johnson. Maybe you might just be thinking Dalton Johnson, but I've heard a lot of people say that about literally our third rounder or our third round picks, you know, and it's just like, you got to hit today as well. So, Big John, always coming with the heat. Always coming, Masses.
Big John liked every other pick, but Masses is a question mark for him.
And that's okay.
The guy, I think Masses led the nation in passes defended, and I think he had 4 or 5 interceptions as well. But he's the question. He's of all the guys we taken, he's the question mark.
But here's the thing, though, Big John. It's okay though. In the 5th round, you can draft a question mark.
Yeah,
it's a question mark to you. That's perfectly fine. That's the perfect spot. 5th, 6th, 7th round. That's the perfect spot to draft some guys with question marks. And I'm all about that, right? Even though every draft pick, even Fernando, has question marks, you want to minimize those question marks as much as possible in the first 3 rounds. This one is like Jermod McCoy, right? 4th round. There's the question marks of the health, but you can take that shot because the upside is there. So I'm okay with question marks with Hezekiah Masses, but that's a good general statement, Big John. Coming with the heat all the time. Justin the DJ, can Masses play special teams? I think he can, without question. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a solid tackler. He's like 180, so he's not like the biggest guy out there. But he's a guy that, you know, he wasn't afraid to mix it up and get involved in the run game and tackle. So, and he set a pretty solid edge in terms of a corner when he was at Cal. I mean, you know, the good thing about him is that Hezekiah, he obviously played for Cal. A lot of Raider fans, by virtue of them being in the Bay Area, you know, they're Cal fans as well. So he will have a warm reception. A lot of people will kind of know what his game is all about. So, you know, he has that advantage. So I'm sure a lot of Raider Nation will gravitate toward the pick because he was a damn good corner for the Cal Bears. So I think he does. I think he'll offer some special teams value. So, all right, next up. Oh, hold up, Rich. Look, we'll get this right. We need to get Bill. Yeah, man, look. Another corner I liked around that same time, I think he went a little bit later, is my guy Ephesians Prysock from Washington. We didn't take him. We took Hezekiah instead, but we could have gone biblical either way.
That's very true. Very true. All right, so next one, we finally so you can take y'all to a buffet. Y'all still want to ask for caviar. We finally addressed the receiver room, Malik Benson. Real quick, I said this on Wednesday. Shout out to our guy, Dante with Gridiron Apex. Man, he's a Florida State fan. He knows quite a bit about Malik Benson because Malik Benson did go to Florida State. He stated that there could be some character issues kind of going into it. He was at Alabama. Alabama kind of worked himself out of Alabama. Nick Saban at the time was like, "Hey, you're out of here." But then he goes to Florida State. Same thing kind of happened where he ultimately ended up working himself out of Florida State and landed with Oregon. And apparently because of a lot of injuries that went on, Malik Benson finally just got an opportunity because of a lot of injuries. And sometimes players can peak when injuries happen. So there's no fault to that. But if there are character issues, that's definitely something to watch out for. You go and you look at the tape a little bit. Fast receiver, a guy that can definitely stretch the field. It just remains to be seen just how consistent he can be as a route runner. And just because you have speed, that ultimately doesn't mean you're going to translate well to the NFL. You got to be a good route runner. The technique has to fall into play as well. And so, maybe it is a risky move, but maybe you can get some high upside as a rotational player. Maybe he gets a handful of snaps and could be a situational guy. Who knows? But we'll see how it works out. But they finally addressed it in the 6th round. So, guys, let me know what your thoughts are of Malik Benson. Severe, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's taking a flyer on a guy. Obviously, he's a speed guy, 4.37 guy. But was I a fan of the pick? Not really. He's a guy that bounced around. I think he was at 4 different schools or something like that. And even at Oregon, it took some injuries for him to get on the field. And not like he was super overly productive even there. And obviously I was a big Dante Moore guy. And one of the biggest things I would say about Dante Moore is that he really didn't have a lot of skill position players outside of Kenyon Sadiq. I think DeCorian Moore he was a true freshman last year. I think he's going to be turned into a good player. He had another true freshman wide receiver, or I forget his name is. I think he could be good players in the future as well. But none of those guys were really good now. And the fact that Malik Benson, being an older, more mature guy who had been in college football at that point already, I think for 4 years, the fact that he couldn't make an impact on that team, that was concerning. And then obviously there's a stigma about Oregon receivers as well, which is you try not to grade guys on the jersey that they're wearing, where instead of the play they actually put on the field. So I don't want to hold that too much against them, but I don't know what he does, what skill set he provides that we don't already have on a team outside of what he can do in the return game. I think, if that's what the Raiders were looking at in the 6th round, speed guy can offer some versatility or offers you some juice in the return game. Maybe that's what they were looking at. But, I don't know about the Malik Benson pick.
Yeah, shout out to Dante. That's kind of what he was sharing with us when we're all watching the draft together, day 3. He said, asked to leave. Bama asked to leave. FSU asked to leave. Oregon sat behind Evan Stewart, DeCorian Moore, and Gary Bryant, all missed majority of the season. But the only thing I'll say, and I saw one, Ralph, you're saying the Raiders have been very vocal about drafting character. I don't see them taking him without doing their homework on him. That they could have done their homework. And I think
look, the Raiders were very vocal about corner, about character in the past, and then they took a guy like Damon Arnett. So I mean, that's always what GMs will say. We want high character football guys, and at the end of the day, man, like GMs are gonna do what GMs are gonna do.
And hopefully SpyTek, hopefully he says it and he's actually truthful with it. Franklin Skinner, you're saying Mendoza alluded to Benson being locked in and beating most of the team meetings so far. So that's a positive sign. I hope so. We'll see if that works out. What I'll say is that's a 6th-round pick. That's a typical 6th-round pick, right? If he was kicked out of Bama, kicked out of Florida State, maybe had some character issues, but you saw some flashes on the tape that you can maybe work with. That's a 6th-round pick. The only problem I have with this is if our receiver room ends up being not productive, then you didn't address it early. I'm okay with this in the 6th round. That's fine. We just didn't address it earlier. And that's my biggest issue. It's not the pick. You can pick somebody that has maybe some concern or not as much production. The 6th round is kind of where you pull that trigger if you really like them. So I'm not mad at addressing receiver in the 6th with those type of possible character issues. But man, we just didn't address it earlier. And that's really my concern. So this receiver room better work out. Jack Besh, Deontay Thornton, you guys better work out. Point blank period. To kind of help out this offense. Obviously we brought in Jalen Naylor and we'll see just kind of how that works. So, but it's the only thing I'll say, and Severe, you kind of alluded to it, is picking the jersey. Oregon receivers don't really work out a lot of times. And that's the tough part is Oregon has such a unique offense that it just the receivers don't translate. That's one of the concerns or things I'm going to watch out with Sadiq, that tight end. I think that tight end's gifted, but because the way that Oregon runs their offense, it's a lot of just kind of verticals or screens, and it's not about a lot of timing routes per se. Where you're going to have to find, or you're going to when you get to the NFL, right? The NFL, and especially the way that the defenses run their schemes nowadays, it's a lot of timing routes. It's a lot of getting to the spot, and the quarterback and you the chemistry's on point. Whereas Oregon just runs, they run just real typical air raid offense a little bit. And it's so different from what you run in the NFL that I think that's kind of hurt some of the Oregon receivers, pass catchers, truly translate to the NFL at times. And so we'll see. If he's just a straight situational guy, then maybe it could work. We'll see. But that's the type of 6th-round pick I'm okay with. You get him, you take a risk, and hopefully you can get some just maybe a little bit of a role player out of him.
Yeah, and I don't know who else was on the board at wide receiver that would have been better at that point. I think a lot of the guys we would have liked, I think they were already gone at that point in time. So it was maybe Deion Burks was still available. I think that maybe that'd been like the only guy that we could have looked at that. But what does he offer? That's a whole lot different than some of the guys we already have on the roster too, with some of the questions. So the special teams value that Malik Benson brings to the table, maybe that kind of won the team over, just in terms of him actually being able to add something in the return game. So we haven't had somebody do that for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, like I am natural. Are we a contender? You're answering your question. No. Well, hey, we'll see. Remember, everybody says we're working for next year. So,
you build being a contender through the draft, though. So, I mean, that is. I don't understand. Like, what's your? I
think I'm natural. I think we're all on the same page a little bit. That just sucks for Kirk Cousins, because if we're all working for next year, that sucks. Bob the Surfer in the building, man. Good seeing you. All I gotta say is, after that 1st-round draft pick, I think people were trying to hack my channel to shut my channel down after that 1st-round pick. But hey, I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere. You're stuck with me, Surfer Bob. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you popping in. All right, next one. Bang. Again, just like receiver, a lot of us wanted to kind of address it early. A lot of people were figuring that we were going to go with a D tackle a little bit early, but we ended up going with the last pick, our last pick, 229 in the 7th round. We go Brandon Cleveland. We finally addressed the D tackle position. Chat, let me know what your thoughts are. Then we'll go to the UDFAs. But Severe, man, your thoughts on Brandon Cleveland?
I mean, at the time, I didn't know a damn thing about Brandon Cleveland. So I was just at that point. I was kind of done. The draft. I think we're me, 805, Chris, Dante, and I forgot Dante's boy's name, man. Excuse me. My apologies for that. But we were sitting at the bars watching it, and I was just like, man, well, what time's my flight? It was what time's my flight, man. But I watched some Brandon Cleveland. I like the player. I like the player. He's a guy that he doesn't wow you with any particular physical traits. He does have good hands. He's active, very active hands, violent hands. He's a guy that be a little bit of a disruptor. Not necessarily, like I said, not necessarily with any of his traits, just with his activity and his motor. So adding a guy like that as depth, adding him to the room, it's a positive. It's a 7th-round pick, so I think we could have done worse. At least we finally addressed the defensive tackle position. I would have rather, taken a flyer on a guy like I would have rather been on the Landon Robinson sweepstakes. Or I would have rather done something like that. But at this point, I was just happy that we at least took a flyer on a guy. And when I saw him, I can see what the team actually saw in him, and maybe there was a little bit of glimpses there. Like I said, just his motor and his activity. He was able to do some things with that alone. He's a little bit of a squatty body, I think that's the kind of the trend I saw with a lot of our defensive tackles recently, you know, they're kind of short on the shorter side. Even JJ Pegues, I think, is 6'2". I think 6'2". Brandon Cleveland's like 6'1", 6'2". Gary Smith Jr. or Gary, not Jr., I think the fourth, he's like 6'1", 6'2". So he seems to like these like squatty, shorter guys with a little bit wider bases. So I don't know if that's a SpyTek thing or if that's a Rob Leonard thing. But that he fits in that same mode of the guys we've been bringing in at defensive tackle.
Yeah, and I'll give you my take just real quick. But I think God found me. What's going on? You're saying who would you say is the number one receiver right now when it comes to just receiver room? I think it's Jalen Naylor. It's got to be
most likely, yeah.
That's what I would just assume. And then real quick, Rebel, you're saying if you're in a rebuild, do you really need a number one receiver? Maybe they like someone in next year's draft.
No. Do not do that nonsense. Maybe in next year's draft. No, don't do that now. Don't do that now. I don't want to hear about next year's draft because y'all told me we couldn't look at next year's draft because we have to do it now. But now all of a sudden now we can wait till next year because we're not going to win anything anytime soon. So we can just look at next year. Nah, bro, don't do that. Do not do that. No.
That's for everybody that gave us that, to be honest with you. Rebel, I'll be fair. Like, I don't know if you were the one that was saying that. I don't know. But we knew a lot of people that were like, you don't wait for next year's draft. You don't do that. Now, obviously, we're talking about.
I don't think it was Rebel. But
it was Rebel.
It wasn't Rebel that was saying that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you still get talent if talent is there because we need it, right? And that's to me, that's what my strategy would be. You know what I'm saying? I think that there was number one receiver, like worthy receivers in this draft well before Keon Crawford, as well as Trey Zuhn. And if we're still trying to be somewhat competitive and you also want to be able to get the best out of Brock Bowers, then you do that. Now, maybe Jalen Naylor's the number one. Maybe they're cool with it and that's what they want to do. Then let's rock out and see what they can do, right? And so I just don't know what's going through their mind, but ultimately it's going to be up to them to produce. Because if we end next season with a shit ton of question marks of, well, we need a receiver, well, we can point back and go, no shit. And if Keon Crawford gets limited play and Trey Zuhn ends up being a rotational piece, and again, people say rotational piece on the O-line. You don't rotate the O-line. So he's either a starter or a backup. That's it. You don't rotate offensive linemen. So there's no rotational piece in O-line. You're either a starter or backup. So ultimately, I think because we could have addressed it early, this receiver room better be good. They better produce. Because we also have a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick last year that everybody thought was going to be Puka Nacua and Megatron. We'll see how that works out. Angelo, Cleveland got brought in to compete with Laki Tasi. We're going to talk about Laki Tasi here in just a little bit. What up, Gravy? What's going on, big dog? What's happening, man? Hey, let me know if you're going to be in Bakersfield, man, because we're going to roll out there again. But shout out to you, big dog. Appreciate you popping in. All right, here's my thing about Brandon Cleveland. Brandon Cleveland, I think he flashes. He flashes on tape, so hopefully we can kind of get the upside out of him. I think that, you got Tonka Hemingway, Jonah Laulu, as well as JJ Pegues. We'll just kind of see just how this rotation happens in training camp. But I know that the big talk was we need to get a nose tackle because we're going to run a 3-4. And I said this really early on is it really depends on what type of defense Robbie Leonard wants to run. Is a true nose tackle going to be just situational, or is it going to be truly our base? Or are we going to run just more even fronts, right? You're going to run an over front, and now you don't have a true nose guard. Everybody's going to be shaded. You're not going to have just a true zero tech. And based on what we did, there's a good chance either we're going to be in more of an over front, more even front on the defensive line, so you don't have a true nose guard because we didn't address it early, or we might have Laki Tasi. But we just don't know. But either way, if you have question marks, if Tonka Hemingway because these are Tonka Hemingway and JJ Pegues. They were late round guys. They were day 3 guys. They were not early guys. As much as Tonka flashed last year, JJ Pegues had some moments, but there's really nothing consistent on film to say that he's the guy. So I would have loved to see us go a little bit earlier because, and I said this on Wednesday, what we thought could have been with Christian Wilkins and Adam Butler together could have been a nasty pairing. That could have been trenches that you don't want to mess with. Like, you would have freed up every linebacker we had. And so even if you don't run a true even front, a true zero tech, an odd front, like a true zero tech and a 3-4, and you run more over, God, if we would have gotten a true just dominant interior defensive lineman to play next to Adam Butler, I'm a big building the trenches guy. That could have been pretty nasty. So it kind of goes back to these guys. It goes back to these 2 guys. If these guys aren't bona fide starters, you could have gotten another D tackle like a Lee Hunter or something like that plays next to Adam Butler. Or I know Caleb Banks went early on, but someone that's more of like a 3-tech type of interior defensive tackle. You play next to Adam Butler, you build those trenches, and it could have been a nasty interior defensive line, even without a true nose guard. So would I have done that? That probably would have been my take, but we ended up addressing it a little bit later. Brandon Cleveland shows some flashes. He's going to compete. I'm not sure if he'll make the team or not. We'll see just kind of how it works. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be a competition, and we'll see how it works out, and we'll see what the right decision was. Should we have addressed it a little bit early on and get somebody that can play next to Adam Butler and have some just nasty play in the trenches, or do they have somebody that's developing? Maybe they're very confident in JJ Pegues and Tonka Hemingway. We'll see. But Jonah Laulu is still there, which played well, and I know people like Thomas Booker. But we told you guys early on in preseason, Thomas Booker is mediocre at best. At best. So, and I know people kept pointing to, well, ex-Eagle former player said that he's Pro Bowl caliber. Yeah, how'd that work out for everybody that wanted to say that in the chat? So
that's why the Eagles are getting rid of him, because he's Pro Bowl caliber.
The Eagles getting rid of him. You know what I'm saying? They shipped him off. But he's Pro Bowl caliber. We'll see how it works. So, all right, Cleveland. We'll see how he works out. Rotational piece. Again, good upside in the 7th round. Show some flashes. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the screen. We'll go up to the big screen. Let's grade it. Okay, let me bring this back up. My bad. We're going to do last things. Bang. We're going to pull us back down. How many starters do you think we have? Obviously, Mendoza is not going to start right away, but maybe at some point. Let me know, how many starters do you think we have out of this draft? Chat, let me know. And maybe let's just say day 1 starters. Let's say day 1, because we picked number 1 overall. We're the worst team in the NFL last year. You want to be able to get some guys that are going to come in and start day 1. To really help this, the process of getting to where we want to be. So, chat, let me know, how many day 1 starters do you think we have on this roster? All right, DHR, you got 5 to 6, maybe. Edgar, you got 2.
Who? When you say 5 to 6, I need their names.
All right, DHR. Hey, 5 to 6. Give us 5. Minimum 5. Give us 5 names that you think are going to start. Frank, you got 3. TK, you got 1. Destroy, you got 2 to 3. SoCal, you got 2. Bueno, all 10. God damn it, Bueno. Show Deuces, 2. Angelo, 2. Raider Pete, 3. Big John, I see 5 day 1 starters. Okay. Day 1. All right, hold on. Here we go, Jeff. I got you. Throwing one out there. You're saying what? Wait, what? Mendoza's not going to start? He's our number 1 pick overall. He's the Messiah, the Savior, the Silver and Black. Why is he not starting? God damn it. Jeff is yelling at everybody that says he's not going to start. Hey, number 1 overall pick. We'd love to see him start. We'll see how it plays out. Shout out to you, Jeff. Dante. 2, Fernando and Trey. Zuhn. 3, if Jermod McCoy is healthy. All right. Jeff, you got 4. Quirk, you got 7. God family, you got our draft plus our UDFAs.
Exactly. If you say more than 3, I need the names. I need the names of who's starting. I need the names.
Yeah, you got 3. There, you got 1. Let's see. Okay. D Raiders 3. Stukes, Johnson. You think you got Dalton Johnson starting? All right, McCoy. All right, let's see. Okay. Hey, Big John is going to stand. He's standing 10 toes down. I like your style. Let's see. Raiders the Leech. All right, you got 4. Stukes, Mendoza, Zuhn, McCoy. If he plays, you got Mendoza day 1 starter, destroying the weight. Stukes. You got Washington. So are you telling me that Washington is going to start over?
That's a spicy meatball right there.
I know somebody's not going to like that in this chat. Let's see.
Look. And being on the punt team or the kick team, like that's not starting. All right. Let's get that like that. Everybody throwing Johnson out there. You're a core special team. You're the gunner. That's not a starter, but okay. Just make sure we're clear on that.
Shout out to DJ though. Stukes and Tokyo Toe. Show deuces day 1. Let's see. Start Stukes and Zuhn. Coach Gravy, I'd say 1, but McCoy will be 2 if he's good. All right. DHI, you coming with it? Mendoza. Okay. Stukes, Mike Washington. That's another one. Oh man, another Mike Washington start over Genty. Zuhn, McCoy, Malik Benson. If Malik Benson starts, that means that our receiver room is that bad. If Malik Benson
starts, oh my God. If he starts over Jack Besh and Dante Thornton, yeah, bro. Yeah.
That's gonna be rough. All right. Realistically, Severe, how many day 1 starters do you think we might have on this list?
I only see 1 locked-in starter, and that is Trayon Stukes. Is a possibility for 2 more with Zuhn, and depending on how they feel about the long term on Kuntz, maybe Crawford sneaks up there. Maybe they just, hey, you know what? They already got rid of Snowden. They got rid of Tyree. Maybe they just, hey, we're throwing Keyron out there. We believe in him. That's the guy. Maybe him. That's about basically all I can see really as starters. Really, I think Stukes is locked in there. Potentially Zuhn and maybe Crawford, depending on how they feel about Kuntz. That's about it. That's about it. Oh, and McCoy if he's healthy. McCoy, but I'm not even really counting. Like, I'm not even really counting McCoy.
So I'm gonna let DH. So you say Mike Washington has RB2. I'm not saying like starting over Genty. Okay, so I'm glad you clarified that. I'm just saying because
I not started it. Hold up. We're changing the rules of the game. Like, what's going on here?
We're not even starting with some cuddle. We got cheaters in the building.
Who's going to start? I think Mike Washington's going to start, but he's going to be behind Genty. Like, bro, that's not a start. Are we running a dual back system? Is that what we doing now?
We're going pro set split backs like back in the 90s. That's what we're doing. And I'm glad I cleared it up. Because we didn't want to get somebody riled up, Money Chuck. Okay, I apologize. I tried to clear it up. Didn't want you to get riled up. Okay, all right. Wanted to protect your boy, Genty. So all right, but I think someone did stand 10 toes down on that. But we'll see. Quirk, real quick, you're saying who's stopping Cleveland from making the team or starting? I don't think he starts, but I think it's going to be a competition.
Yeah, I don't think he starts. I mean, realistically, who's in his way to make the team? Because it depends. It depends on this because technically, I can't say his name, but the Tokyo Toe, technically, he can be classified as an international pathway player. So let's say we're going to get into Laki Tasi right now, but let's say Laki Tasi wins a roster spot outright. We can designate the Tokyo Toe as our international pathway player, and we can keep him around, and he'll still make the team. So it depends on what we want to do with him, because if we take that designation away from Laki Tasi, then maybe Laki Tasi stands in his way of Cleveland. I don't know. Do I think Booker stands in the way? Not really. The guys ahead of him right now, basically Pegues, Hemingway is kind of a 5, so I mean maybe Hemingway, Butler obviously, that's really all. I mean, Laulu's kind of a 5 technique too, maybe him.
Yeah, but so they'll compete directly, but they'll be in the same just room. So
yeah.
No, I agree. What up, Jay? What's going on, man? Appreciate you popping in here with us. Yeah, so for me, honestly, I see 2, possibly 3, and I actually agree with you. Trayon Stukes, I think he's a day 1 starter. I think he's gonna start day 1. I do think Zuhn has a chance. I think Zuhn has a chance because, like we said on Wednesday, but also I know Rebel just kind of said it as well. It's like I just don't know how confident they are in JPJ. JPJ is not a SpyTek guy. He's got the concussion situation. In addition to that, how much did SpyTek agree or disagree with the shuffling around of JPJ? I don't know. I know that's more of a coach's thing. Coaches kind of take a handle on that, but how much did SpyTek somewhat agree to it? I have no clue. And so you go and get this guy that in the 3rd round, that you search for starters in the 3rd round. Maybe Zuhn ends up finding himself starting over a guy like JPJ. Now, if he takes over Caleb Rogers' spot and Caleb Rogers isn't even seeing the field, well, guess what, SpyTek, that's not a good look because you just missed on your 3rd rounder last year. So that's not good. So I think it's Trayon Stukes, Zuhn, and Jermod McCoy if he's healthy. I think those are the only 3 that I could see starting day 1. So that's my takes. Okay, let's do this. Oh, we got Jason in here as well. What's going on, big dog? What's happening, man? Let me go ahead and take this down, and then we're going to get into, let me go back up, UDFAs. We're going to go UDFAs real quick and get you guys' take on it. One thing I'll definitely ask is just who do you think might actually make this 53-man roster? I'll be dead honest. I wasn't able to kind of go through and look at all the UDFAs. There's a couple guys that definitely popped out to me of what I could actually take a look at. So let me go ahead and share the screen. Nope, that's the same one. Let me remove that. Let me share it all over again. Share the screen. Bang. Okay, I'll blow this up a little bit so everybody can see. There we go. We'll start at the top. Chat, let us know what your thoughts are on the UDFAs. I'm going to kind of go down the list a little bit. Let's go ahead and Jacob Clark, quarterback, Missouri State. I saw a little bit of him. I don't see a world where he makes the team. Obviously with Fernando Mendoza, Kirk Cousins, Aiden O'Connell. I don't see a word. Severe. Have you had a chance to take a look at him at all?
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see him making practice squad. I don't see it.
And so, chat.
But I will say this though. I will say this: the fact that we signed him as a UDFA is the other guy we brought in and basically as a tryout. I don't know if that bodes so well for a guy like Aiden O'Connell.
That doesn't. And I'm only going to do this because you hit the hashtag Raiders, and it allows me to kind of hit my fun soundboard. But Money Chuck,
shut your bitch ass up.
All right, move on. Like you're dumb. You want the attention with the hashtag Raiders. You got it, but you also got the soundboard on it. You're an idiot.
Talking about a sandwich? What are you guys talking about?
He's talking about Chris, the dry bologna sandwich.
Oh,
that was just classic.
Yeah.
That's just hilarious. And Money Check, if you can't laugh at that because you're in the Fernando Mendoza cult, then you're just a bitter person. You can move on. Go enjoy the friends you don't have. Okay. Jacob Clark, Missouri State. Yeah, I just don't see it. We got Tyler Dzansky, long snapper. We'll move on. Let's go to Roman Hembi. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are of Roman Hembi. Hit that hashtag Raiders if you think Roman Hembi is going to take Genty's job. Money Chuck. But what's you guys' thoughts on Roman Hembi? Severe, I'm going to throw it to you first, man. And frankly, I see it. You're talking about Chase.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him too. I like the other guy too. We'll
talk about him in just a second. But Severe, what's your thoughts on Roman Hembi?
I like Roman Hembi. I think Roman Hembi makes his team, man. I think Roman Hembi makes his team. Goodbye, Dylan Labe. Who's the other guy? Chris Collier. He might already be gone. Chris Collier might be gone already. And the fact that
I liked Chris Collier, damn it. I was rooting for him last offseason. He didn't get his burn. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely think Hembi makes this team. I think he brings a little bit something that the other guys don't have. So. And the familiarity with Mendoza, I'm sure that helps. And the fact that he has very little competition for that spot, to be honest with you. Like, very little competition for that spot. I think the only backs on the roster, true running backs right now, I think is maybe just Genty and Lobby, right? I think Zamir's already gone. Chris Collier maybe still here. Mostert, I think, is gone already. So, yeah, I think – I don't see. It's hard for me to see a world where Hembi doesn't make the roster unless we decide to go the veteran route and bring in a veteran running back. And I don't know who's out there available right now. Maybe Joe Mixon. Did Joe Mixon get traded or did he get cut?
Ooh, I think he got cut. I don't think he got traded.
Yeah, so maybe we want to go the veteran route for our third back just because we're going to have such a young running back room. Maybe we do that instead of Hembi, but outside of that, man, I don't see. It's hard for me to picture a world where Hembi doesn't make the roster.
No, yeah, and I'm not natural. I'll just address what you're saying. You're absolutely missing the mark on the day one starter thing. We're not in win now mode. So when people say that you can't turn things around right away, that's what happens. Is when you make excuses why we didn't hit in the draft. Let's put it that way, right? Like when we didn't hit, when we have to sit there and go, wait a second, okay, well, why did we go this guy? Oh, because he's a rotational piece. Oh, because he's going to battle. You just find yourself making excuses, and now the excuse is, oh, but we're not in win now mode. I understand that could be a valid point a little bit, but at the end of the day, like we're now just banking on guys that hopefully work out. And if they don't work out, we're going to find ourselves in this same exact cycle. And we did it last year. And so I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong, but at the same time, people sit there and go, well, we're not in win down mode, or you can't turn around in one season. Well, there's examples that did do it in one season. Yeah. It's just because they drafted well and they addressed free agency well. And most teams, to be dead honest with you, good coaching, it's one. But most teams are 2 to 3 players away from improving their record by like 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
You could be 2 to 3 players away with a good coaching staff from literally improving your record by 6 to 7 games. And so 6 to 7 games, we won 3. That could be a 9-win season next year.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I struggle with is when you don't nail the picks and you have to convince yourself that they're going to compete or we're prepping for next year. That's just an excuse as to why we just didn't hit in the draft.
Yeah.
I hope it works out. I do. But that's been us for how long? It's okay. My bad. Let's see. Okay. To Roman Hembi. Jason. Roman Hembi. New starting running backs. Washington.
Jeff is trolling.
God damn it. I need to read yours first, Jeff. So I actually think Roman Hembi could be hopefully the short yardage back that we need. I think he's better of the 3. I don't think Washington's a short yardage back. Genty struggled with it. I said this before we even drafted Genty, that if we get him, we need a short yardage back, and kind of proved that last year. Hembi, I think, can be that. He may not be the ideal short yardage back guy, but I think he's big enough, he's strong enough to where out of all the running backs currently on our roster, he's probably the best one. And I think that's where he would possibly fit. So he was on my radar prior to the draft as a day 3 guy. We got him as a UDFA. Let's bring him in. Let's see where he can play a role. And I think that's maybe where he could end up being is a short yardage guy. Because the one thing, it's not a knock, it's just an observation of Hembi, is if you watch Hembi at times, once he kind of gets an open space, his stride starts to get a little bit. And Severe, I know your son does track, and you're kind of around kind of the track scene a little bit. Watch Hembi when he runs kind of outside the numbers. His stride is so short; it literally takes him like 5 steps to go 5 yards. It's like it's really choppy. Now, once he kind of gets to the sideline and has open space, his stride gets a little bit wider, but his stride kind of off tackle before he gets to the edge, man, it's so choppy that it almost feels like he's in slow motion trying to get to the sideline. So I do think he's more of a in between the tackles guy. And again, hopefully he can become that short yardage guy. So real quick, DJ, you're saying if the O-line struggles to run block, how can you evaluate the backup running backs?
I mean, that's kind of what we were saying beforehand, where a lot of what people were doing when they were copping plays for Genty were saying the Raiders O-line, the Raiders O-line, the Raiders O-line. But those same guys were essentially the guys that we had the year before. So we can't evaluate those guys, or can't evaluate Genty based on having those guys. And how can we evaluate any of the other players that we had previously, because they were dealing with that same O-line? So, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, but it is a new regime. They have no loyalty or no allegiance or any ties to any of these players. So the fact that we went out and we grabbed RB2 and we got a guy as a UDFA that played for the guy or played with the guy that's supposed to be our franchise quarterback, I think that kind of speaks volumes on what they think about the running back room. So it doesn't bode well for those guys.
No, and look, it just goes back to watching the game film. Honestly, that's the only way you could really evaluate it, is go back, watch the game film, and just try to get a sense as to, even with better blocking, what can they do, right? And so, we said there was Genty. If Genty has better blocking, Genty is going to do much better. That's just, we've said it so many times on this channel and for so long, is that, the success of a running back is 99% of the time is going to be based on how well the O-line blocks. That's really it. Now you have the one-offs where if an offensive coordinator can get a running back in space and be able to kind of take advantage of that skill set, if they're really good in space, then that might be a different story and you can use them situationally. But you got to go back to the game film. That's really the only way to evaluate it, in my opinion. So, okay. Roman, Hembi. Next one. Isaiah, it's Yada, not sure. BYU tackle. I have some take on this kid. Chat, let me know what your thoughts are on Isaiah Jada. I'm going to pronounce it that way. Severe, have you had a chance to look at that guy?
I haven't had a chance to watch him. He's offensive tackle. Is he left tackle or right tackle?
He played left tackle.
Left tackle. Is he a real big guy?
I don't know how. I don't know what his measurables are. I don't. I just went on and watched his game film, some highlights, but then I watched a full game of him at BYU playing left tackle. One of them was the Texas Tech game, so he played against Texas Tech,
against Bailey and against
and Romello Height.
Romello Height, yeah.
And I mean, the kid looks like he's got some potential. He's got good fit. The only thing about him is it's you just don't see the over aggression, right? Like you like to see linemen that just have that edge to him. He definitely doesn't seem like he has the edge at all to him. But even when he was going against Bailey, he actually looked like he did a decent job. Now, again, I watched one game. I watched some highlights from Texas Tech, stuff like that. So just kind of getting a lay of the land of the kid with very minimal tape. I'm sitting there going, I think this kid might be one to watch for during OTAs and training camp to see, can he battle a little bit?
Yeah.
So,
so he's like potential depth piece there, or
yeah, I don't think he's in a battle for a starting position, but I think he could definitely. It'll be interesting to see if he could chip away at this, this 53-man roster, which would be very hard because, to your point, I think you talked about the D tackle class. You now have our starting 5, but you have Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers from last year. Now you have Trey Zuhn. You got Jordan Meredith. Jordan Meredith ain't going nowhere. God damn it. But now you got this Isaiah Jetta. So where is he going to play? Is he going to be a potential backup right tackle of DJ Glaze? Maybe it's a battle between him. I think that's the only open spot. But he was a left tackle. So can he translate over? Can he transfer over to right tackle? But I definitely think it's a player that to keep an eye on, in my opinion. I think there was somebody else that might have mentioned Isaiah Jetta as well. Chat, let me know.
I think it was about Jason Downs. I think he said something about
Jason Downs.
Maybe mention what you said as well about he played had some tape against Bailey, played pretty well.
Let me see. There was another comment. I saw it. And I'll end it with this. I'm hoping Collier gets some more reps in preseason. God damn it. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Is he still on the roster? We got confirmation he's still there.
Yeah, he's on the roster.
Okay.
And let me know if you're going to Bakersfield. We saw you last year, man. Shout out to you. You brought the fam, the whole 9, man. Let us know if you're going to Bakersfield this year, man. It'll be good to see you again. All right, let's see. Next one. Matt Lauder, tight end, or I'm sorry, Devin Lafayette, safety, Troy. I honestly did not do any research on him. Severe, were you able to take a look at this kid at all?
I tried to find some stuff. I didn't see anything. No, I think I saw maybe like some interview online. I didn't see any like highlights or nothing like that, so I couldn't find anything on him. So, I mean, another safety. So if Dalton Johnson is this all-world player that we've been, I'm messing with you, but I don't know if he makes. I know if he makes the team. Obviously we want to add more bodies to the secondary. Usually safeties, linebackers, tight ends, DNs are like the special teams guys. So maybe outside chance he sneaks onto the practice squad, earns some time as a special team player. But I haven't watched him, so I can't really pass judgment on him.
Yeah, chat. Let us know if you guys have any thoughts on Devin Lafayette. I honestly didn't get a chance. Okay, hey man, and yeah, man, if we see him, man, it'll be cool. But if not, man, it's all good. Hopefully next year. Hold up, let me see. It's Kane. He's a good player to have being developed 2 years from now. Okay, is that Devin Lafayette or Isaiah Jetta? I'm not sure. Put the name down there, man, and I'll see. Mount Lauder, tight end, Boise State. Obviously, Money Chuck is obsessed with Boise State, so maybe he knows something on that. Money Chuck, if you're done complaining, then let me know what you think about Matt Lauder. He's probably the best tight end to ever grace the planet Earth, based on what his stepson Genti does. But then we're going to go to the next one. Kensei Matsusawa, kicker. He's going to mess with Matt Gay. We're going to see just kind of what this battle looks like. Severe thoughts on the kicker. Chat, let me know. Do you think Gridiron, Apex? Oh, man. See, Dante, don't give Money Chuck any ammo. Matt Lauer is legit. Well, don't give him.
I think Dante did say that, though. I think he said he did like Matt Lauer. Yeah, I think he did say that on draft day, I want to say. I think he's mentioned him. Because remember, his team took like 5. The Jaguars took like 5 tight ends, and I think Matt Lauer was one of the guys he mentioned that he liked that was available later.
Oh, really? All right, okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, any thoughts, Severe, on the kicker, man? Again, it's the battle between him, Matt Gay, obviously. Shit, I'm blanking on our kicker last year. That was his name?
Daniel Carson.
Daniel Carson, he's out the building. What you think? Battle? Who do you think is going to make it?
I mean, I'm rooting for Kente. I don't think he makes the team, to be honest with you. Yep. I would want him to make the team. I mean, Matt Gay wasn't much better than Daniel Carson was in terms of what they did last year, and Matt Gay is much older. So, and obviously, Kente Matsuzawa had a great story. I think he was a tourist out here, and he saw a Raiders game, and that's what inspired him to That's what inspired him to a lot of guys waved already. Oh damn.
Yeah, that's what happens to Boise State players. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go.
It's just it's trash school. I don't know what to tell you. You know,
there you go.
Bad talent. That's cool.
But you know, he saw the Raiders play, and then that got him intrigued with football, and he taught himself how to kick with via YouTube, and you know, he won the job at Hawaii, and he was playing for my guy Timmy Chang at Hawaii, who was look, we talk about college production. Timmy Chang.
Oh, Timmy Chang.
Timmy Chang was balling.
Well,
Norm Chow, I think Norm Chow was the coach at that point, right? Yeah, Norm Chow. I think he was he the head coach or the OC there? I forgot, but he was balling at Hawaii before Colt. Or was he there with Colt Brennan? Huh?
There's Colt Brennan. Colt Brennan was balling.
Yeah, with Norm Chow. But I want to say the thing, Norm Chow was still there though before he went to SC.
Maybe.
I think it was before he went to SC. But yeah, man. But it'll be a good story. But Matt Gay, he has a relationship with our special teams coordinator. I want to say he had the best season of his career with him as a special teams coordinator. So there's already a little bit of adversity in front of the Tokyo Toe. So it's going to be a tough role for him to make this team, in my opinion. But personally, I hope he beats out Matt Gay.
I honestly, I hope so too. Not just because apparently he's a white guy, but got a bunch of family in Hawaii. I know a lot of my family are going to be rooting for him just to make the team. But I think ultimately, as a kicker, it's all about consistency. So if he comes in to camp and he is consistent, if he can really just show that he can be more consistent than Matt Gay, then I think he has a chance of making the team. I think the tough part is you don't necessarily have to have the biggest leg in the world, but I think if you can be somewhat just consistent, you know, anything past 40 and under 55, as long as you're kind of consistent right in that window, you know, I think you can find yourself a starting job. If it's not here, then it could be on another team, but hopefully it is here. So, and you know, then hey, it's the first time I've ever seen an Asian on a goddamn football team. So hey, you know what I'm saying? Like I could at least root for somebody.
He'd be the first Japanese-born player in NFL. But now, man, the Ravens had that safety. Who was the safety for the Ravens?
So, God, who was the safety? It was
Then obviously that everybody knows Dat Win. Dat Win from Texas A&M, right? Texas A&M. I remember Dat Win. Dat Win was a man for the Cowboys. He was a dog. I remember Texas A&M. I think they played UCLA in the Sugar Bowl. That's the first time I saw Dat Win. I was like, this guy is a monster. He's a 5'9" monster.
Oh yeah. So 5'9", big. He's like a Deuce Gruden in pass.
Bro, man, dude was crazy.
Bro,
built like Ashton Genty.
He was one of the reasons. He was one of the reasons why I just was stoked to play linebacker as a young kid going in, you know, all the way through high school. No, honestly, you know, I joked around. I think it was in Leo's. It was in Lito's live. You know, it's like, hey, I could root for my 12th cousin. Okay, so exactly. Somehow I'll look through the family tree. I'll find a connection. But we'll see. We'll see kind of how it works out. Yeah, Angelo Tokito will be our IPP, and Tasi will start at nose tackle. So both those guys, one of those guys has to officially make the 53, and the other can be on that international player program. So it can't be both. Got to be one or the other. We'll see how it kind of works out. But I think consistency wins. We'll see who's going to be more consistent. So next one, Caleb Offord, cornerback, Kennesaw State. I think somebody already put it in the chat that they like Caleb. I think they put an A. before it. Severe, do you know anything about this guy? Chat, do you guys know anything about this guy? I don't know much, to be honest with you.
I know he's a guy. I think he had originally committed to play at Notre Dame. I don't think he got much run in Notre Dame. I think he bounced around to a few different smaller schools after that. But I was looking at it. I think he had a pro day when I was trying to research some of the guys. He had a pretty good pro day. I think he ran like a 4.5. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2". Pretty good build for a corner. Ran like a 4.5. So there you go. Yeah, I think he's pretty. I think he's a solid guy to take a flyer on.
Okay, I mean, shoot. Okay, Indiana did see Kennesaw State. I just looked at the Fernando throws. I didn't see the entire game film. But
man.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know much about him.
Three pro level receivers right there too. I mean, if you look at Surratt, Cooper, and Becker. It's three pro level receivers. And the number one overall pick at quarterback. Huh?
Justin Pickett, guard at a Duke. Again, another one. I wasn't able to look too much at him at all. I know Gridiron, Dante, you're still in here, man. If you have any thoughts on Justin Pickett, guard at a Duke, I don't know much about him. Chat, let us know if you guys know anything about him. Severe, any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I didn't watch him at all.
No. Okay, then we'll jump to a couple others. Okay. Dante, trash. Pickett's sold Messiah. Sold Mensa against.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Got it. A lot of watch out blocks.
Oh yeah, it's Duke. Yeah, Duke. Man, Darian Minson's my guy, man. Oh man, Darian Minson, Miami. Oh my God. Him and Kadarius.
No, hold up.
Him and Kadarius Toney.
Remember when we were doing we were watching game film of the D tackles.
Oh yeah, that was the guy that kept getting cooked.
Ass kicked.
Yes.
Was it 62 or something like that?
It was 62 or 65. I remember somebody was getting cooked. And we saw multiple games. We saw multiple, we watched a few guys this guy's out here getting dogged.
We almost stopped watching the D tackle that we were focused on. We were Jeff, okay, you're saying 63?
Okay.
It was like either the right guard or something. He was getting absolutely handed to every single time we saw him. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
We were making whole highlight tapes just on him.
That makes sense. Damn, I don't know why we brought him in.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. What up, Daniel Kim? What's going on, man? Let's see. Gridiron, and people say I can't watch film. Oh yeah, we literally were focused on D tackles in the draft, and we kept seeing the BYU guard pop up, and we're watching highlights. So to be fair, but he just looked awful. So it was tough. So all right, next up we got Chase Roberts, wide receiver, BYU. I know Dante's a big Darian Mensah guy, so Dante, let me know what your thoughts on Chase Roberts, honestly, but Severe. Any thoughts on Chase Roberts?
Man, that's probably my favorite signing. Him and I like EJ Williams too. We'll get to EJ, but I like, man. Look, I think Chase Roberts makes this team. He went to BYU. He did go on his mission, so he is a little bit of an older prospect. But even with him being an older prospect, I think he's maybe I think he's 25, going on 26, if I recall correctly. So it's not like he's much older than the guy who took in the second round. I think this guy can be a productive. He could play a role in the NFL, and we saw Kubiak. And the Seattle Seahawks franchise, they leaned on a guy that he's not exactly the same player per se, but another undrafted guy they brought in Seattle was a guy named Jake Bobo. And Jake Bobo played a lot of meaningful snaps for Seattle. And I think so Kubiak is not opposed to playing those kind of guys. And I think Chase Roberts is the guy that definitely can carve out a role on his team.
Okay, no, actually, I'm actually looking at my sleeper picks. And I actually had Chase Roberts BYU as a sleeper pick. I just, for some reason, I'm not remembering him. But yeah, I'm looking back at my kind of sleeper picks. I had Brendan Thompson, the kid that went to the Chargers.
Oh yeah. I think you and him were talking. Did you when you and Gridiron and Dante were on? Did you guys talk about Chase Roberts?
So I think we were talking about it might have been Eric McAllister.
Oh, maybe it was. I remember you guys had a guy similar.
Yeah,
maybe that was
Eric
it.
McAllister. But I have Chase Roberts here on my sleeper list. I just, for some reason, I can't remember him. But okay, shit, I'm gonna have to go back and refresh my memory on the kid. So Chase Roberts, yeah, Dante St. Chase Roberts was number 10 on my top 10 wide receivers. Rebel, I wouldn't be surprised if all three BYU guys make the team. I hope that guard doesn't make the team. If that's one you're talking about.
Bro. Nah, the guard went to Duke. Guard went to Duke.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Dante, yeah, Chase played well. Zach Wilson, Jaron Hall, Caden Slovis, Jake. Damn, okay, he went through a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, he was there a long time.
Yeah. All right, Jay, we're gonna get down to Gary Smith. That's a UCLA guy, so we'll definitely get Severe's take on that. Let's see, Morris, you're saying Robert slipped right in for Puka at BYU and didn't miss much. Okay, let's see, SoCal. I like Chase Roberts pickup. Okay, man, I got to go back and watch this film then. I have him on my list. I just totally blanked. What up, D-Mess? It'll be good to see you in Bakersfield, big dog. Appreciate you popping in. Okay, so next up, Corey Rucker. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are on Corey Rucker. I was able to look a little bit of game film on him. Severe, any thoughts? Chat, let me know if you guys have any thoughts on Corey Rucker. Severe, any thoughts on this kid?
No, I didn't watch him. That's one of the guys I wanted to watch too. I was trying to watch at least all the skill players on offense. I didn't get a chance to watch him.
So I just watched a little bit, not a lot. I think he's a guy that he can run every route. You see him actually, kind of make every catch on the field. So not just simple hitches, but he goes up the seam. He also can basically take some inside routes. When he gets the ball in his hands, he has some really natural moves after the catch. So he could be able to kind of get separation even after the catch. I think he might end up just kind of having that small school kind of feel, so that, maybe he just ended up being an undrafted free agent because he's from Arkansas State. Small school. He looks like, as I'm watching the film, I just get this feeling like he could have been a guy that could have been maybe a 6th or 7th rounder, possibly. Mm-hmm. Again, I only watched maybe about 2 games and a highlight film of him. So he showed enough to where I'm like, hey, another guy that I'm going to kind of pay attention to as it relates to training camp and kind of as the offseason kind of workouts go on. So, yeah, Corey Rucker, a guy that I'll definitely keep my eye on. Let's see. I'm just seeing if anybody's making some comments of Corey Rucker. Nothing. Okay. Next one, Cian Sloan. I think that's how he pronounces it. Cian. D-end out of NC State. I kind of took a look at this guy as well. Chat, let me know if you guys have any thoughts on Cian Sloan, D-end, NC State. Severe, did you get a chance to look at him?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of him. I actually like this pickup. With the way our defensive, now I think we've cleared up some guys. We've gotten rid of Snowden. We've gotten rid of Tyree. I don't know how they want to exactly play it in terms of 3-4 edge rusher or true defensive ends. He fits more of the role like a 3-4 edge rusher in my opinion. But he's a guy I like what I saw from him. I think he's a guy that definitely, if nothing else, I think we'll see him on the practice squad because he offers a little bit of juice. Looks like he used his hands pretty well. It was still, and it's not like he's a small school guy. He obviously come from NC State, so it's not the best conference, but he looked good in the limited stuff I saw on him on YouTube. And then I saw an interview with him. He seems like he's like a real sharp guy as well. So I think he had I forgot who they played. He had a real good game. And they asked him after the game, and he was able to walk through like what he was doing. So he seems like a sharp guy, something that this organization is kind of looking for, a high character guy as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, at the very least, finds himself on a practice squad.
Obviously, I watched him too, and the only words that kind of pop up to describe the kid is he looks like he plays with a chip on his shoulder, like he's gonna get after you. I think he plays a lot of attitude. I think he's got a motor.
Definitely.
But I just think the tough part is he just doesn't look like the most athletic guy out there. So he's got to put out a lot more effort to try to battle some of the bigger guys. He doesn't seem like he's the biggest guy out there as well. And so,
and I don't know what his measurables are either.
Yeah, I don't know either, but he definitely plays with a lot of energy. So I think he's an effort guy. And like you said, I completely agree. He could find himself on the practice squad. And I don't know if he makes his 53, I don't know if I see that, because the only way he has a chance at making the 53 is if you're just a damn good special teams player. Now, effort, passion, just the tenacity that it looks like he brings could get him there.
Yeah.
But not sure if he might need a little bit more than that. So,
yeah.
DJ, you're saying, needs to add a little more weight. All right.
Around that's what I'm saying. He's like, just looking at him, he looked more like a 3-4 outside guy than and that's basically what he played essentially. So,
yeah, and I think he's going to be a true on the line type of guy. Like, he's not going to be an off the ball linebacker at 239. I just don't think he has athleticism for it. But I think there's a good chance he might make that practice squad. Okay, next one. I think Jay, you talked about it. Gary Smith, D tackle, UCLA. Yeah. It's all just some highlights, but severe, man. Any thoughts on this guy?
Short, squatty body. He's like 6'1", 6'2", probably like 325, something like that. He was a transfer in from Duke, and a lot of us were super excited about him. He played his first year, actually looked like he could be turning into something. Then he missed all of 2024 with the foot injury. I came back this last year. Solid player, like nothing spectacular. He's a guy he's basically a short nose tackle, space eater, tough to move, because he has a low center of gravity, real powerful hands, very powerful punch. He's not going to offer you much in terms of pass rush or anything else, but he'll be a guy that can be like a disruptor in the run game. But that's about it. I mean, if you're asking him to do anything more than that, then you're asking too much of him. He's essentially just a short, squatty body nose tackle, the guy that's difficult to move, and who's going to eat up blocks.
So I guess because again, I just watched a little bit of film on him, and he also seems like if he doesn't win, he kind of gives up ground at times. And now, again, I was just kind of watching highlights, so it's really hard to take kind of the full story of his play, but he looks like, hey, when he gets in that backfield, he has some agility for a big boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He has some. I forgot who. He had a real nice sack against. Damn, I can't remember who it was. It was 2023. I forgot who it was, but where he he actually had to change directions on a guy and chase a guy. I was like, all right, and that's what some of that stuff is what kind of got us excited. That year he came over from Duke, and then like I said, he had, I think you want to say it was a foot injury. He missed the entire subsequent year. He was back this past year, but just didn't really look quite the same as we saw him that first year. So he's a year removed from that injury now, so maybe he gets some of that movement back, but that movement really wasn't present this past year.
Yeah, and real quick, hey, if anybody is over on I can only see the comments on YouTube, but if you guys are over on Twitter or Kick or any of the other streams, come on over to YouTube, get on in here so I could see your comments. Just as a heads up, because I can't see all the time all the comments that pop up. So if you're on any other platform outside of YouTube, jump over to YouTube real quick. You got The Severe Raider, I'm 805 Raider, Real Talk Raider Nation. Okay, hey, all right, I can see yours. Good. That's coming on over, which is good. And also, 1/3 of the Raider War Room couldn't join us today. Chris Protect Show podcast. So after this, definitely jump over and hit that sub button for him as well. We hit you guys on Sundays and Wednesdays. We break down game film throughout the season, just so you guys know. So I guess final, think there's a chance he makes this roster or at least practice squad. Severe?
Practice squad, another practice squad guy. It'd be tough for him to make. Like, I would put Cleveland way ahead of him in terms of making a roster. So he'd have a, and I don't know how many like true. He's a true nose tackle. Like he can't play 5 technique. He's only a nose tackle. So I don't know how many of those guys we really want to carry on this roster. So practice squad guy is where he's headed.
All right, cool. Yeah, again, I was only able to see a little bit of him. So, okay, cool. No, I just want to make sure because sometimes they can't see it or they try to comment, it doesn't pop up. Sometimes it doesn't filter over here. I know a while ago Twitter had some problems. So
yeah,
but I appreciate you confirming. So, next one, Xavier Sorey Jr., Arkansas. I watched a little bit of this kid. Rebel, if you're in here, I think Rebel's an Arkansas fan. Let me know what your thoughts on this kid. Chat, let us know what you think about Xavier Sorey if you've taken a look at him. Yeah, I watched a little bit of him, but Severe, what's your thoughts?
I didn't watch him. So what did you think of him?
So I think he's just a very undersized linebacker. I don't know exactly what his measurables are, but when you look at his game film, he looks very undersized. He looks like he's just a little bit thin for a linebacker. When you watch him, just because of how just undersized he looks, not height-wise, but he looks thin. He's got decent athleticism to go sideline to sideline, but I just think working between the tackles, being able to kind of make plays at the line of scrimmage may not be what his forte is going to be at all. But he's more of an inside linebacker. Looks like that's what they played him at Arkansas. So I think at the end of the day, maybe a good special teams guy if he makes this team. But again, watching him, he just looks really undersized. So we'll see. We'll see just kind of how he works, how he battles. Quirk, you're saying, sorry, is nice from what I've seen. I don't know if you're talking about Sorey at all. But Chris Thomas, linebacker, Maine. I know nothing about this kid.
I don't know about him either. I
hate to downplay schools, but it's Maine. I just don't know. I hate to downplay schools. If you guys know anything, hit that hashtag Raiders. Let me know if you've been able to take a look at Chris Thompson at all. We'll move on to the next one. Tanner Wall, safety, BYU. I have not been able to take a look at him either.
I haven't watched him at all either. If anybody in the chat knows anything about him, I mean, if Dante's around, he might have watched him. But yeah, I know nothing about that kid.
Okay,
there's another safety though.
Yeah, another safety. So, chat, let us know if you guys have anything on Chris Thompson or Tanner Wall. I haven't been able to do some research. I will, and then maybe when we go live on Wednesday, I'll kind of give you my take on it. So we'll go to the last one. So I know a lot of people, obviously, the Indiana ties, E.J. Williams, receiver, out of Indiana. They brought him in. Chat, let me know what your thoughts are of E.J. Williams. Severe, I'm going to throw it to you first. Overall thoughts of E.J. Williams and if he can make the team.
I think E.J. Williams has some of the traits that we're looking for. Obviously he has a relationship previously with Mendoza from their time in Indiana. He's a bigger receiver. I think 6'4", like 2 something, if I recall correctly. I don't know how many years is at Indiana. I know he started his career at Clemson. So if you're able to you come out and get a scholarship to Clemson, I mean that kind of tells you the kind of athlete you probably are. So the fact that he moved over to Indiana recently, and like I said, has that experience with Mendoza, I think that bodes well for him. Big body. From what I saw, he looked like he's pretty athletic. Looks like he has some solid hands. The change of direction skills weren't great, but he was able to find some spots in some zones, make some contested catches. Pretty solid in terms of the back shoulder stuff from what I saw as well. So I want to watch more of him. But I think he's a guy that, like I said, that there's some traits there that the Raiders might see and might be intrigued with. And I think he's a guy that I think he has a chance to make the roster. Because our depth at wide receiver, I mean, it's not the best right now.
It's not. I went back and I watched every single Fernando Mendoza throw, right? And who he was throwing to and whether or not the receivers were doing well within their pass routes. There was the one example that I showed where that tight end kind of slash fullback that they have over there, number 37, where he just didn't settle in the soft spot of the zone. He basically drifted a little too much, and Fernando threw it where it needed to be, where I thought the tight end kind of drifted a little too much. And I think that was more on the tight end than Fernando. So I definitely tried to figure out, okay, is it the throw? Is it the receiver? And I think what happened, and the reason why they didn't utilize him more, and it's what I stated when we were breaking down the game film of Fernando Mendoza, is within those first 5 games or so, I think that they were more open to running more pass concepts. And, if you go back and you look at EJ Williams' stats, I believe he had just over 30 catches on the season. And out of those 30 catches, I think 4 games, he had like 5 catches. So he got the bulk of his catches in 4 games. And a lot of those games were against weaker teams. And so a lot of them were early. And I think he had 5 catches against Michigan State, 5 catches against
Kennesaw State. I think Kennesaw State had a pretty good game. Yeah.
It's Old Dominion, the first game of the season.
Yeah.
And then he had 5 catches against Wisconsin, right? Wisconsin, not a good team, bad defense. Michigan State, not a good team, bad defense. Then Kennesaw State, Old Dominion, self-explained, right? But I think that was when they were trying to basically open up a little bit of the passing concepts, right? Where he was actually going through some reads and getting to his 3rd or 4th read. And when they figured out, we're going to lean on the run game and we're going to lean on the defense, and we're going to go to literally back shoulder fades and RPOs, it kind of removed him from the game plan. And so if you go and you look at even in the playoffs, I think he had 3 catches total in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just don't know what this kid is. If they would have been able to utilize him more and they asked Fernando to go through more just full-filled reads, maybe EJ Williams would have got more opportunities. Yeah. So I think it remains to be seen just kind of what he's going to be able to bring to the table. I think in the opportunities that he had, I think he looked pretty good. So we'll see if we kind of expand on that. Mage Power coming over from Kick, I believe. Appreciate you rocking. But the question then becomes, is that the fault of the quarterback or the receivers? That has been a big my Twitch. Okay, appreciate it. Sorry, I'm not good with the logos. That's been an ongoing question, and that honestly you can't answer it, right? You only can do what you're asked to do. But ultimately, what happens is if you don't show a body of work on game film on the tape, then it just opens up the question as to, can you do it? How well can you do it when there's such a small sample size of? And I think you might be talking about either Fernando or EJ Williams, but if it's Fernando based, it just opens up the questions. One, can he do it? How well can he do it? And of the examples that he did show, it's so minimal and it was okay at best. So the question is, what can you do? So it's not saying he can't do it. It's just a matter of, can he do it at what level can you do it at?
Yeah.
So anything on that? Because I think
and with what consistency as well. I mean, because you can flash something a time or two on tape. Just because you can do it once or twice doesn't necessarily mean you can do it on a consistent basis. So I think, a lot of those questions are going to be answered pretty soon here, right? We'll be able to see exactly what it is.
Yep. And just to follow up with that one, you said the next question also is, can the coaching staff get the best out of him? We'll see. I hope so. If Clint Kubiak can kind of continue the success with Sam Darnold, and he got the best out of JCN, Kenneth Walker looked good. Hopefully, he could do the same with Fernando Mendoza. And hopefully, we get a really good answer out of that. Severe thoughts on that?
I mean, I think he did a pretty good job. If you look at what he was able to do with Jackson from one year to the next. Obviously, these are 2 completely different types of players. But I mean, I'm a trust with this coaching staff. I'm a trust this coaching staff he puts together. He has a good mix of young guys and older guys. A lot of guys he has relationships with in the past. So we'll see. I mean, they didn't address the wide receiver position, really at all in the actual draft outside of, the 6th round. And so obviously they have some confidence in either their ability to scheme guys open or coach guys up. So we'll see if that translates, and we'll see if that's able to make a difference in the kind of player that EJ Williams is.
Yeah, and shout out to, if Jason Downs is still in here, shout out to him, because, I mean, he corrected me a little bit. I had to change kind of my thought process was, look, we picked him number 1. We drafted him number 1, so at the end of the day, Clinton Kubiak better get the best out of him.
Yeah.
That's your guy. And if Fernando Mendoza fails, it's not because of him. It's because we drafted him number 1 and we didn't get the best out of him. To be dead honest with you, as much as the question marks I had of Fernando Mendoza, if this number 1 pick does not work out the way it's supposed to, it is solely on Clint Kubiak and JohnSpytek for making that pick. It's like Tyree Wilson or Cleveland Farrell. Cleveland Farrell wasn't a number 4 draft pick. That the value wasn't there, but they picked him. So guess what? That's on the head coach and GM for not making that work.
Yeah.
So let me go up to the big screen real quick. We're gonna get the last 2 topics in. Appreciate everybody rocking with us. Let me go ahead and remove it. Make sure I bring it up correctly. Last 2 topics, guys. We are gonna go with this one and Charles Snowden. Charles Snowden is officially out the building. We went ahead and we waived him, basically, meaning we're releasing him. I know I've had some comments of people basically saying, "Oh, well, you need a lot of rotation. We need to get after the quarterback." I understand that concept, right? But man, Charles Snowden was doing this. He went from an undrafted free agent to making the team because Malcolm Kuntz got hurt, and all of a sudden we start to see flashes. Like, I think this could have been a decent breakout year for him as it relates to a rotational piece. But we went ahead and let him go. I'll be honest. I wanted to see what Charles Snowden could have brought this year. So chat, let us know what your thoughts are on Charles Snowden being released. Do me a favor, hit that hashtag Raiders. Obviously, Keon Crawford came in the building, so that might have played a role. But Severe, what's your thoughts on Charles Snowden leaving the building?
Yeah, man, I had to see Charles Snowden go. It was a good story. Obviously, he had, outside of the one incident he had to do with DUI or whatever. But other than that, man, a guy that, undrafted guy, comes in, makes the team. He had the big play to help us win the Cleveland game 2 years ago. And I think he started 9 games over the past 2 years, beat out a number 7 overall pick in Tyree Wilson, right? Like, beat that guy out. He's a guy who he played some DN for us. That they had him playing like an outside linebacker edge type role as well. I think he's 6'6", 6'7" guy. Some pretty good movement. Obviously not the biggest guy in the world. But I thought he was a guy I was looking forward to see what he was going to be able to do in this defense. At the very least, be a guy that was a rotational piece in this defense. So sucks to see him go. I wonder who's going to pick him up. Is this going to be another trend of guys that we had on the roster and he goes elsewhere and he latches on with a more stable franchise and he starts producing at a higher level than he was here with us? I hope that's not. I want to say I hope that's not the case because I want him to do well elsewhere, but I just hope we didn't lose out on a guy that can be a productive NFL player.
Yeah, DJ said I didn't see enough from Snowden, so it is what it is. If you go back and you do watch us break down game film during the season, the thing where I think Snowden really helped was in the run support. So he really started to kind of pick up on his ability to stop the run. He didn't necessarily get after the quarterback too much, right? Yeah. But his ability to kind of get to the sideline and stop the run, I think he was starting to really show some really good flashes. And if you can show flashes as a rotational piece, and now Tyree Wilson's out the building, and now Charles Snowden's out the building, our edge rushing, like our DN room, it looks a little slim if you don't get a little bit more production out of Malcolm Kuntz. So we'll see what happens with Malcolm Kuntz. But, yeah, I think based on what we saw last year, I think I would have liked to see Charles Snowden stay. But, he's kind of – it is what it is at this point. Frank, you're saying, sure, it would have been nice to see Snowden, but – more cohesive coaching, with more cohesive coaching, maybe. DK, I read Snowden was a glue guy. He could have helped us, but the coaches have something in mind and released him. Now allows him to make a squad elsewhere.
Yeah, agreed.
Jay, Snowden may come back later on if he doesn't get picked up. Apparently, Mage Power, maybe Philly will pick him up. Who knows? But sometimes these guys get signed back. at a later point in the offseason. Maybe.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Very early. Good.
Snowden covered a lot of ground. He did, bro. He's like 6'6", 6'7"?
6'6" or 6'7", one of those.
Yeah. Franklin, maybe the addition of Pay and possibly Harvey, or why we move on. I don't know if Javari Harvey is still on the roster. He was a practice squad guy. I don't know if he's still there.
I think he's still there. But yeah, I mean, he was there. I think he was here. He was here with us last year, right?
He was there. He was a UDFA last year that made the practice squad.
Yeah.
So, look, he's going to move on. We'll see just kind of how it works out. Unfortunately, again, I would have loved to see him as a rotational piece because, again, injuries happen. We've seen that multiple times, and I think he's definitely a serviceable guy to come in, especially now that the draft is done. But with Keon Crawford, maybe they're going to make more of an emphasis of him getting a lot more playing time being a third rounder. So, again, that's the question mark of that Keon Crawford. Just how much role is he going to play? And maybe this is a sign of what we're about to see during the season. Okay, next topic, real quick, last one. Appreciate everybody. Do us a favor. Double tap the screen, hit the like button. You got the Severe Raider over here. I'm 805 Raider. My channel is Real Talk Raider Nation. You got Chris Protection Podcast that rocks with us as well in the Raider War Room. Go hit him up afterwards. Hit that sub button. All right, next one. Laki Tasi.
Look at that picture. That was ridiculous. Look at him standing next to a normal human being.
I'm going to tell you right now. I was extremely excited when we found out that he's going back to the D line. We talked, I think, slightly about it on Wednesday, but Severe, I definitely want to get your take, guys. One thing I will preface is when Laki Tasi was brought on last year to be a D lineman, myself, Severe, as well as Chris, we were extremely excited. We were damn excited about seeing him on the D line, just because you go back and look at his rugby highlights. Bro, he's an athlete.
Yes.
At 6'7", 370 plus pounds. Then last year, they moved him over to the offensive line. I said this last year, and I think the reason why they possibly moved him over was, one, could have been just because our coaching staff was just stupid. But two, when the Christian Wilkins stuff happened, because Laki Tasi is such an inexperienced player, I think they needed more bodies on the defensive side in the D-line room to understand who was going to be the starter, because we had a really bad starting or just bad D-line room at the time. So I think they needed more bodies to evaluate to see who could they bring in to play next to Adam Butler. So I think that might have been the reason why they moved him to the offensive line. But now we see them back. And when that happened, myself, Severe, as well as Chris, we were pissed.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see him back. There's been some practice film footage that, man, I'm telling you, this I sent it over to Severe and Chris, and this guy could be a terror in the middle as a situational guy to start out with. But chat, let me know what your thoughts are. Laki Tasi going back to the defensive side. Severe, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man. I'm very, very excited about this move of him back to the defensive side of the ball. He should have never been moved in the first place, to be honest with you. And, I don't want to say this is the reason, but maybe part of the reason we didn't address defensive tackle so late is because we like what we see from Tasi, or they're projecting him to play more of a role than he played last year. So maybe that went into it. That remains to be seen, because obviously Rob Leonard was with the team last year, and I speculated at the time, why would we move Tasi from the defensive side of the ball to the offensive side of the ball, right? Move him from a role where he's going to be going forward 90% of the time to a role where he's going to be going backwards, or have to move backwards or move laterally, 55, 60% of the time, right? So it just didn't add up. It didn't make any sense. And I speculated at the time, right? It basically is probably a tug of war between Brennan Carroll wanting the guy on the offensive side of the ball, and Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham wanting him on the defensive side of the ball. And at that point, Brennan Carroll was the head coach's son, and he pulled rank. Well, now both of them are gone. And who's the guy that's the defensive coordinator? Was Rob Leonard. So I think he pulled him back over to the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's the best move for him. Like, you look at how the game he played in rugby, how that translates, or what translates most to to what side of the ball, it translates more to the defensive side of the ball. Him going forward, being in an attacking mode at all times. I think that helps him more because it's a lot less of a thought at that point. It essentially win the matchup in front of you, right? You don't have to worry about in the offensive line. You talk all the time. It's a lot of that, or just offense in general. A lot of that has to do with chemistry and guys being on the string and reading and reacting. It's a lot less of that on the defensive side of the ball. It's going forward. So I think that's a position that bodes well for him. It shortens the learning curve, and it actually gives him an opportunity to contribute much earlier in his career than he would have been able to do on the offensive side of the ball.
I'm with you. We'll get a couple of these chats and quirks in, but does that support a 4-2-5 look with letting go of Snowden and Tyree? In my opinion, I don't know if it necessarily both those guys are kind of like tweeners, right? And so you could use them in a 4-2-5 look. You could use them in a true 3-4 look. Yeah. But it just really it depends on the route that they're going. I think maybe Keon Crawford is just going to get more burn than we think, So because I think Keon Crawford is a replica literally of Malcolm Kuntz. Yeah. I think both those guys have the similar gameplay, and so maybe just the scheme itself, what Robbie Leonard wants to do, maybe just doesn't support guys like Tyree or Charles Snowden. Severe, any thoughts on that?
Nah, yeah, I agree. And once we brought in Keyron Crawford, you kind of felt that there was going to be some other moves, some other dominoes that were going to fall. I didn't think it was going to be Snowden. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but I thought we may thin the ranks there a little bit. Then the fact that I think Quay can play, I speculated he was going to be kind of a outside linebacker in our 3-4 alignment as well. So that kind of maybe that contributed to a little bit also. But yeah, I mean Tyree, the jury's out on him. I'm good with him. But the fact that Snowden, he was on a cheap contract, like I said, the arrow for him was pointing up, and for us to kind of cut bait early, it surprised me. But at this point, it's a Rob Leonard is more in position to make more choices than he was previously. So maybe this was a move that was inspired by him, and Charles Snowden was in that room with him. So maybe he's a guy that he kind of had on the chopping block for a while now.
No, yeah, and just another DJ saying who put him on the O-line. Again, I don't know. We can only speculate. I just think it was maybe possibly a strategic move because they needed bodies in the D-line room with Christian Wilkins stuff. But that's just speculation because this coaching staff was just an absolute mess. So I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah. I'm looking squarely at Brendan Carroll.
Maybe it's like I don't know if Brendan Carroll's like, hey, I want like bring this guy over just because he's big. I don't know. Like it's just who knows. Yeah, Franklin Skinner. On a serious note, could be a space eater. We need we need when we do a traditional 3-4. Yeah, and that's why when we went into the draft, and I said this, is that it just depends on what Robbie Leonard wants to do. So if we don't prioritize a true nose tackle early, then maybe the nose tackle is going to be situational.
Yeah.
And Laki Tasi, I think, could be a damn good situational guy moving forward.
Yeah.
So, Jay, you guys see him practice the other day? Guy can move for 373.
Yeah, he played rugby. Like that's the thing, bro. You got to be able to move if you play rugby. You can't be a sloth out there, bro. That's why we wanted him so much. And Chris kept telling us about Chris played rugby against Haloti Ngata, right? And that's another big guy who moved surprisingly well for a guy his size, who also played interior defensive line. Obviously one of the best to ever do it. We're not expecting that from Laki Tasi, but so you can kind of see the correlation there between playing on the defensive side of the ball and playing rugby and being a guy that size with that type of athleticism and what you can potentially mold them into with good coaching. And Pete Carroll, in his infinite wisdom, saw all that and said, let's put him on an offensive line.
Yeah, so stupid. And why I was so pissed when we moved him was because, and I said this last year when the news dropped that we moved him to the O-line, was with a guy like that, with that type of athleticism, and he's still an athlete. He may not be a football athlete, but he's an athlete, right?
Yeah.
And that size. What you want to do with players like that, and as a coaching staff, the best thing you can do as a coach for a player is put them in a position where they have the best chance of success. That's your job as a coach, is to put them in the position that gives them the best chance at success. And Laki Tasi, if you put him on the defensive line, because he's already an athlete, all you want to do is literally fill him with confidence. That's it. That's all you need to do. And on the D line, in situational type of situations, is that it could be 4th and 1, and he takes up a double team, frees up Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean goes in and makes a play, and all of a sudden, everybody is actually praising Laki Tasi, not just on the field, but when you go back in on the defensive during the week, right? And you're in game film, and you're watching game film, and everybody sees Laki Tasi take up 2 blockers and free up the linebacker. Everybody is now praising Laki Tasi.
Exactly.
And that just exudes confidence. And if you bring some confidence to this kid, I'm telling you, like, you're going to create a monster. And not saying that he can all of a sudden just be an absolute starter, could get there, but he could be a key piece to a situational defense on 3rd and short, on goal line, on 4th and 1, that he could just be an absolute monster. And imagine if he was there for 2 off seasons. Imagine if he was working D-line all last season.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why I was so pissed, because this kid literally could have been a monster this year based on what we already see. And even the technique that you see in that short clip that I sent over to Severe and Chris, like, you just see the technique already. Pad level low, base low. I mean, and he's a mountain of a human being. You give him 2 years, 2 off seasons, playing on the D-line, oh, he could be a nasty situational player. So, again, as a coach, and I just take that as, because I coached the game for a really long time, if you put players in position to have the best chance of success, and then they can find confidence, again, on the D-line, you don't have to make the player make the sack. All you got to do is take up the double team and freeze everybody else up, and all of a sudden now you know you did your job, and now that confidence level just skyrockets.
Yeah.
So, but on the flip side, the one thing I said it earlier in the live, on the flip side, maybe the only positive you can take from him going to the offensive side first is that maybe he learned a lot of what the offensive line techniques are. Yeah. And what the offensive line is going to want to do to him based on power run schemes, zone run schemes, stuff like that. Even how offensive line pass set. You know what I'm saying? Just understanding what techniques offensive linemen use as it relates to pass blocking. Now he could basically counter that because he knows it. So maybe him learning the offensive line and the techniques and the schemes can help him kind of get a jump start on being a decent interior defensive lineman. So if you could take any positive away from it, maybe that could be it. So
yeah, good point. Especially for a guy that didn't grow up watching American football, for sure didn't grow up playing it. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So again, if you could just find some positive, maybe that could be a positive. So, but man, let this guy have 2 off season as a D tackle. Just that one clip that I showed, I was like, damn,
man,
bro. He made the buildings in the background look like playhouses. Like, he was just like, Jesus
that dude is a monster. It was a monster.
And so it's gonna be very interesting. We're gonna go back up to the big screen. All right, guys. So that was basically it. We went over the draft. Definitely let our guy Severe come in here and kind of give the takes on the draft. We went through some of the UDFAs, talked about Charles Snowden. And we last touched on Laki Tasi, man. Again, I think both of us agree, and I think a lot of the chat agrees. We hope this kid comes in and plays a big role for us and can definitely help out this defense in a big way. So we're gonna wrap it up. We appreciate everybody rocking Severe. Before everybody kind of gets out of here, let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on throughout the week, and all that fun stuff.
I mean, you guys know what it is, man. The Severe Raider here on YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, X, IG, True Social, Kick, Twitch, everywhere. The Severe Raider, man. Hey, I got my guy Mage Power in here. So probably the only one holding it down over there. Salute to you, brother.
That's Twitch.
But for Twitch, that's Twitch. Yeah, that's Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. The K, the green K is Kick, But
there you go. Okay, my bad.
yeah,
I got the kick up. Yeah, that's me. I don't even. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So yeah, man. You guys know where to find me, man. Sunday and Wednesdays with my guy 805 Raider and Chris Protect the Shield in the Raider Roar Room. Tuesdays and Thursdays, my guy Pharaoh NFL and Around the Shield and the 50-50 show. So we'll be back this week. Like I said, man, I had a family emergency last week. So man, I appreciate everybody. Everybody reaching out. Was never really able to do a lot of shows this past week. So but we right back on it. Right back on it.
100%, man. Glad to have you back. Glad to have you rocking and Jeff DC next year for the draft. Oh man, we'll have to let you know closer to it. But I think I might try to do an East Coast game next year or this upcoming season. Obviously, we play the Jets. And do we play the Jets? I think we play the Pats again. So
I think we play. Yeah, we play. Yeah, I think it is the Jets. It is the Jets. The Jets and the Patriots.
The Patriots, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those. But Jeff, man, I'll keep in contact. I'll let you know for sure. But if you guys don't know, yeah, Jets, New England. So as we get closer, I'll definitely let you know. But schedule release in a couple of weeks, man. It's gonna be fun once you get some dates locked in. If you guys don't know, I'm 805 Raider. My channel is Real Talk Raider Nation. I basically just rock out in the war room. I do some random lives here and there. I might post a video here and there or short, but basically I'll rock out here. I might do some solo lives if I have time, but Sundays, Wednesdays is the main time. But if you guys don't know, we also break down game film in the season. And so if you guys like a little bit of film breakdown, then definitely tap in with that. Hit that notification so you do know when we go live. Anytime that big news hits, we try to jump on here and chop it up with y'all. So we appreciate, all the members, all the subs, definitely all the super chats. We appreciate y'all. We're going to get out of here on here for over 3 hours, man. All you guys, Jeff, Querick, all you guys that were rocked out from start to finish, man, we definitely appreciate y'all. But definitely hit that notification so you know when we go live next time. So, hey, have a great rest of whatever's left of your Sunday. Have a good start to your week. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. We're out of here.